Hello. How are ya? How you been? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. We're going to be playing Lake of Voices today, which we were playing last night. It was one of the 3 indie horror games that I picked up off of Steam with the intention of playing. We played Glitch for a little while, and I quite liked it. Actually, no, I hated Glitch. And then we jumped onto Lake of Voices. Only planned to play it for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes and then move on to the next one. But I actually really liked Lake of Voices, so we played it for about an hour and a half. Ended up dying because I made bad decisions. It's kind of my thing, making bad decisions. So I decided I was going to come back and play a little bit more of it. So I've played back up to the decision that we screwed up last time. So we're going to finish off the path that we were on before I screwed it up, and then we'll go back and make different decisions and try and save everyone. For right now, we're not saving everyone. We've already let 2 of the guys die. We're just focusing on our main 2 players, so on Kika and Bemele. It's going to focus on Kika and Bemele getting us safely across. So long story short, we came up to this lake. And to get across the lake, there's all these monsters and stuff in the lake. At night, bridges rise up out of the water. You can run across the bridges to get across the lake. It's kind of a 2-day journey, so you've got to make it to the island and then to the other shore. There was a lady called Margaret who was traveling with us, but she took a wrong turn. So rather than trying to save her, I just left her behind. And then we met a stranger on the bridges who we also left behind. So we made it to the island, and now we're other side of the island. So this is the 2nd day. I've been separated from my partner Bemele and also from the guide, and am off on my own and being attacked by the monsters, by the prowlers. Last time I freaked out and tried to run away from them. So this time we're going to be starting from that decision, where instead of freaking out and running away, we're going to try and chat with them. Well, not chat with them. We're going to try and stare them down a little bit more. So we'll get going in just a second. I just need to make sure that the stream is healthy and that the sound is all okay. And then we'll get going and started. If you are in the stream, give it a like, give it a share. All of that stuff really does help out. I know it sounds kind of naff and cliche at this point to tell you to, like the stream, like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. But it really does help, especially with the live streams. If you can like it, share it around, it helps a lot. So we'll give it a few moments. If there's anyone in the chat, jump on in, say hi. You'll also notice that I'm talking quite quickly. That is because I've been out and I've done a few street shows today. So I'm still very much in performer mode. Whereas normally when I stream, it's I'm a little bit more chilled out and relaxed. Which means this might be a fun stream if I'm a little bit looser with my commentary. But hello and welcome. We'll get going in just a moment. I'm just going to tweet out that we're getting started. Try and get some more people here to have fun and play with. I need friends. Lonely. I am so lonely. I have nobody to call my own. Alright. So we'll tweet this out and then we'll get started. Then it's go time. How is everyone, by the way? Are you good? How's your Sunday or your late Saturday night or early Sunday morning or whatever time it is for you guys? How you doing? Alright, so we tweeted that out. So hopefully we get a few friends to come and say hello. To drop in and go, oh, hello. Share it out on Facebook as well. We'll get started in a moment. If you were here for yesterday's stream, you'll know the storyline a little bit. I think I explained it reasonably well. Facebook it out. Then you work it out. And you work it out. Alright. Enough messing and mucking around. Let's get back into it. So we'll load up from that decision that I just talked about. I steal a glance behind me. It has truly stopped. The return of the light seems to catch it off guard, and thankfully it declines, coming closer. So basically we tripped over and fell. Our lantern went flying. We've run to it, relit the lantern, which has stopped the beast that was following us from charging us too closely. Here we go. So this time, last time I ran, this time we're going to stare it down. I managed to calm my mind down from the commotion and recall what the guide said when we first encountered a prowler. You don't have to run or fight. You only need to keep moving while keeping an eye on it. I can't keep running forever, and doing so seemed to invigorate them further. There he is. Hey, buddy. I fix my stare on it forcefully as the creature recoils from my relit lantern. So last time I ran, and the thing chased me down and murdered me. Moving at a steady but brisk pace, I continue forward, making sure to check behind me often. It creeps at a distance, however. However, the thing makes no more dramatic attempts to engage with me, choosing only to lurk. I'm gonna clean my glasses. I got the mustard on them. I don't know where I got mustard on them. Got the squiggles. I'm set on edge by its presence, but in a way it's strangely beneficial. It makes it harder to get lost within my own mind when the tension in the air is so high. Reaffirming my goals, I go down bridge after bridge, making my way to what I can only hope is the way out. Eventually the prowler halts at the precipice of one of the branches. Frustrated, it paces back and forth on the border as though something is physically stopping it from going further. I decide to take that as a good omen. This journey of mine returns to one of isolation. Even the whispers of Sinlos have ceased. Suddenly I realize, through the fog, the black sky is turning dark blue. Dawn is beginning to rise. So all of these bridges will sink again at dawn. So I gotta hurry up and get the hell off this bridge. At this point, there's no use in keeping up my strength. I sprint down the bridge, going faster and faster as I hold out some sort of sign. Hold out for some sort of sign, anything. Eventually I receive one. The silhouette of land peeks into my field of vision. I can scarcely believe it as I blink away the tears. With renewed spirit, I press down the bridge with increased speed, desperately trying to outpace the sun. The glowing orb peeks into view against the obscured sky and begins to ascend unfeelingly. With each step, the sky brightens ever so slightly more. I race through the oppressive fog, and there's a voice in the distance. It isn't the horrifying sound of the monsters looming. It's Bemele. He's calling out for me. Bemele! I shout back to him through the dark, foggy void. My voice comes out as a horribly weak wheeze. Between deep, shaky breaths, I'm almost certain he couldn't hear me. I'm not bothered by that, however. I'll find him. I'm coming, Bemele. Please, just wait for me. I keep running against the increasing light, and his figure comes into view, here, on the bridges. Bemele races towards me at high speed, and doesn't slow down when he gets near. He grabs hold of my side and supports my dropping frame as I slow to a stop. I barely choke out a sentence as I strain to catch my breath. Why are you here?
I was looking for you, of course. I knew you had to be nearby. You had to be. Don't worry over it. I wasn't reckless enough to go in the dark. I waited until there was some sun and stayed on one path.
He grins at his own planning skills. I grow cross at his risky behavior.
The bridges could have sunk.
Despite the admonishment, I'm terribly relieved to see him again.
You are free to give me a proper lecture some other time. Right now, I'd say it's time for us to get out of this damned place. Are you still able to run?
I put all my weight back onto my feet and nod to him confidently, though my legs still lightly quake beneath me. Bemele gives me a reassuring smile, something I'd come to believe I would never get to see again.
Don't worry. We're nearly there.
I provide a battered smile in return. The two of us tear across the bridges in the direction Bemele pointed out, and just as he promised, the end comes into view. Against all the odds, we've both made it. I nearly tumble off the bridges onto solid ground. I crouch on the ground and lay my head between my legs, unable to stand. I rest there quietly for a few moments, taking time to allow my breathing and emotions to settle down. Finally, I look up from my lap and see Bemele standing ahead of me. Both our eyes are flowing with tears. Bemele walks over and sits down on the dirt nearby. He gazes deeply into my eyes, with a gentle smile gracing his lips. No words need to be exchanged between us to know that what the other is thinking. I'm glad for it, because I'm not sure I'd be able to speak even if I needed to. The sound of sloshing and wood lurching captures our attention as the bridges begin to sink. In a few moments, only the lonely dock is left. Hey, the guide's back. With that, the guide walks towards me.
It is time to leave this place. There is nothing left for you here.
Upon being addressed by him, I rise to my feet. He has a calm look on his face, though there is a force behind his serenity. I open my mouth in an attempt to speak. However, I quickly realize I have little idea of what to say. Do I thank him for this? Should I give him my trust? Was our survival because of him or despite of him? Even now I can't know for certain. And then the fog is removed from my thoughts. After everything that has happened, it becomes clear. I harden my face to match his serious disposition. There is something he is certainly right of. This lake is not a place to linger. Going round and round in circles will never help. We cannot submit our lives or our minds to Sinlos. For better or for ill, there is only one person who can help those once they are within its grasp. The guide. If he were removed, the place would be no safer. What I must do if I truly want to defend others is keep them from coming here at all. When I return to my village, I intend to make that information acutely known to our elder. For that to happen, we must leave.
Goodbye.
His eyes narrow as he looks over me. I begin to feel uncomfortable under his scrutiny, but for a moment, I could swear I noticed him smile slightly. However, it could easily just be a trick of the morning sun. I look away to face Bemele, not wanting to get caught up in this any longer.
Bemele, we're leaving.
He lifts his head at my voice and grins through his expression, though his expression quickly sours into a frown. He shows no eagerness to move forwards and keeps his distance. He still feels regret that is only two of us that are leaving. I empathize greatly with him, knowing the feeling is one we will never escape from, even after this lake is far behind us. So yeah, Bemele did not agree with my decision to leave Margaret to die and to not help the stranger we found on the bridge. Yeah, he really did not agree with us. So the fact that it is only us that survived, he's not very happy about. However, he manages to weakly smile again.
Those words are music to my ears. Let's head out.
Bemele walks towards the forest without even acknowledging the guide. That is for the best on the whole. We must get away from here. It saddens me to think Bemele doesn't even have the strength to become angry, though perhaps he had an epiphany about this lake in the same way that I did. We will be able to discuss that on another occasion. Despite the firmness I so intently tried to have, my heart starts to waver. Margaret, Lou, they're both still here. So Lou's the stranger that we found on the bridge and left behind. I wish to give them a proper farewell. I want to do something. My eyes begin to water and I almost turn back around. No, it's done. I need to remember that. They would never want me to ascribe their lives to Sinlos. Nothing would disgrace their memory more. I will keep them in my thoughts without allowing this lake to poison me. With my steadfastness truly regained, I march into the light with no hesitation. With a solemn heart, I at last arrive at Hemer. They were grateful to see me, for it was a desperate situation indeed. The urgency meant that my mind was occupied with other matters. I worked tirelessly to aid Hemer's own guards in forcing back the brigadiers. But during the moments of calm, and when the sun went down, I still remember the lake. Bemele was of great help during the fight. His outwardly positive demeanor lifted the spirits of many around him. but I could see from the shadows in his eyes that he hadn't forgotten what we went through. Nor could I miss the distance that had grown between us. He spoke fewer words to me, and I never gave him many either. Yet he seemed stronger than I had seen before. I admired his will. When receiving payments for his services, the guide must give a report of all those who both succeeded and failed to cross the lake. The name and fate of Margaret soon became known to Hemir. I added that she was an intelligent, thoughtful person and urged them to show respect for her passing. I hope that one day I will have the opportunity to go to her hometown and pay my own proper respects. His retelling of events had little to say of Lou. I know that's because he was not meant to be there and was never one to open up, but it still saddens me to face how I never truly got to know who he was. I can only pray that those who cared for him will learn the truth of what happened. I have not heard nor seen the guide since then. Here I remain obscured in that realm of fog and fear, a mysterious light off in the distance that is ever out of reach of the real world. I worry about when I must return home to my usual life. It will be difficult to continue as things were. One thing I know for certain is that my village elder must be told that no one is to cross Sinlos again. I have already told Hemir leaders the same. Not a single more person should have to experience what we did. Its darkness will remain with me for the rest of my days. Though so much was lost, I try to believe that our lessons will keep others from suffering the same way, and in the end, something will be gained. Lake of Voices. Achievement unlocked. Lost. Right, that's our first playthrough done. So this time playing through, we're going to try and pick different options as we go through to see what endings we can get. So that ending was me and Bemele made it to the other end safely, but everyone else in our group, well, not even our group, everyone else in the game died. So this time we'll play through and we'll play it a little differently. Back in we go. Certain choices are timed. If you survive until the second night, the story will branch into one of 5 different plotlines based on your earlier decisions. The other characters cannot manage all situations in the various plotlines regardless of what you do. If a character isn't making it, try getting that plot with a different set of survivors or having the same group of characters venture through some other storyline. Becoming closer to someone can add or remove future choice options and change how some scenes play out. Your decision to build that connection may not go unnoticed by the other characters. Earning the full amount of affection with certain characters can require getting into specific plotlines. Right, in we go again. I'll read it all out again this time, but as we go through the different storylines, it is going to start replaying a lot of the same content. So I will start skipping through to choices once we get going. My grip on the lantern tightens as the fog around us thickens. While the forest in this area are relatively safe compared to Sidlos, I can't help but feel my hairs stand on end the further we get. Apparently, it's deciding to skip. Right, so last time we went with I'm sure you're forgiven, Bemele. This time we'll go with you're quite informed, Margaret. So we're going to try and make friends with Margaret this time.
It's been years since the time of Garvin the Exemplar. It's impressive you knew.
Margaret smiles, lifting her chin into the air. The over-exaggerated action is somehow pleasant, rather than belittling. She is so much happier than I anticipated.
Yes, I do like to stay informed. And you knew too. Good. This lake shouldn't be allowed to swallow even history itself.
My town, the one where I was born at least, was also Garvin's hometown. I was very young when he passed. The entire village went into mourning. People broke down crying in the streets. I'll never forget it. He meant much to everyone who knew him.
It is a hot day in Adelaide. Alright, so this is our branch. So we're going down the branch now. Quickly save.
Oh, I have no such connections. I merely read about it.
She pauses, seeming to scan the air in front of her for something to say.
I'm sorry for your loss.
It's all right. Thank you.
My town may have taken pride in Garvin the Exemplar and what he achieved, but we weren't the ones who lost the most. That would be his family. We each remain locked inside our own thoughts, not another word passing between us. Eventually, a small light appears on the bridge ahead, gently swaying through the foggy air. It gets closer and closer until it becomes apparent it's a figure carrying a lantern. That must be the guide, although I can't shake the ghostly aura that it gives off. The figure steps onto the shore. We must wait for him to approach us instead of going to meet him. None of us are sure how close to the waters we can get before it's no longer safe. Here's the guide. He stops in front of us and simply stares.
Are you the guide of Sinlos?
The man nods. He has a sharp face and weary eyes.
Well, that's grand. We would like an escort across the lake.
Bemele motions to the two of us, and Margaret approaches, a strange smile on her face.
Hello, it's good to see you again. I'm ready to cross, as we've agreed upon.
The guy turns to face her as well, his face remaining unchanged. It must not be a lie, he would have had to say something otherwise. She really does have preference to travel with him. That is a problem.
Is there a way we can all begin the trip tonight?
Yes, I will allow all three of you to go. But with that many, at least one will die before we reach the other side.
I furrow my brow. It's a disturbing addendum, and one offered with little emotion attached. Bemele glares back, without asking what we're supposed to do with such circumstances.
You should go around.
The sentence hangs in the air, the second half unspoken. If you want to live.
We don't have time for that. There are people counting on us for protection. Why does she need to go?
He jerks a finger at Margaret, whose face contorts with anger.
I don't need to explain myself to you. My journey has already been put off once, and I was promised I could go today. I will be going under any circumstances.
She meets Bemele's eye with a gaze of steel. He starts to speak, but she cuts in.
An extra day or two shouldn't be that much of a problem for you. Whoever you're meeting can surely wait such a tiny amount longer. Patience is a virtue, after all.
The night is only so long, and if we're still on the bridges when the sun comes up, we'll all die as they sink back below the surface. If you don't decide soon, no one will be going.
So at this point last time, we decided that all of us would try and go across. This time I'm going to decide that we go around. So we don't go with the guide at all. We walk around the lake. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a dead end, but we'll get it ticked off anyway, so we can do a full playthrough. The guide is dispassionate, stoic. I would almost feel something's wrong with him if I didn't share the trait myself. Bemele pulls me to the side, jaw clenched tight.
That woman isn't armed.
His voice is low. He darts a glance at Margaret.
We can easily get her to back off if we make this into an actual fight. After all, we have to go tonight, yes? If one of us really is to die, it'll be her.
It was her.
Would staying be a worse fate than her death?
I stare at the dock, refusing to meet Bemele's eyes, and try to keep my voice as level as possible.
We don't know her situation. This isn't a decision we can make for her.
What?
Bemele leans in closer, apparently having missed what I said. I remove the sympathy for her in my response when we speak again.
The guide won't accept something like that, I assume.
His face is grim.
Then what else do you have in mind?
First of all, you and I cannot split up. Either we both stay, or we both go.
Right. That's not a question.
I cross my arms and hold on my chin, a hand on my chin. I have full confidence in my abilities and in Bemele's, but there's no reason not to believe that the guide knows exactly what he's talking about. If we go, he might not be able to give the group the attention we each deserve. That would mean we truly would be putting Margaret's life at risk on top of our own. Last time I said I believe we should go. This time I am saying nothing. The guide approaches Bemele and me before I have time to sort out my thoughts.
You will stay.
What?
You would have already decided to come if you had the proper mindset for a journey such as this.
So this is the
You
storyline
two
we're
will
doing now.
stay.
But you don't understand.
The guide raises a hand to me, eyes cold. My words die in my throat. If he decides we aren't fit to cross, how can we persuade him otherwise?
This is bullshit! We are more than
Language.
equipped to make this journey, and we know more of what it means to be in danger than most will know in all their life.
You two will stay.
Bemile's muscles tense and I put a hand on his arm. He trembles slightly beneath my fingers, his hands curling themselves into fists, but he doesn't say another word. The guide turns around and heads onto the bridge. Margaret uncomfortably looks from the guide to us.
Goodbye.
See ya. As she steps onto the bridge after him, Bemile sighs, the anger releasing from him, and they disappear into the fog.
Farewell.
Be safe. We reached Hema safely, though it took much longer than we would have liked. Much of the village has been damaged or even destroyed. It was my fault for taking so long. I did all I could to aid them in defending their town and repairing what could be salvaged. Bemile was disheartened by how little assistance we were able to provide. However, he could not deny how fortunate we were to have both made it at all, especially after we caught wind of the report given by the guide to the elders for that night. Every village close enough to Sinlos gets informed on what occurs in that lake. He does so because communities wish to be aware if they have lost one of their own. Hey, H2O Skygirl, how you doing? I don't know how long you've been sitting there for. I've been reading the game instead of reading my chat. How are you? This time his news was the death of a young woman, the one we spoke to. Margaret is gone. Ah, so we didn't travel with Margaret to try and give her a chance of actually surviving, and she went and died anyway. Dang it! I have not heard nor seen the guide myself since then. I must assume he is still there on that foggy shore, waiting for desperate souls to seek out his light so they may cross the lake of true darkness. Although I regret that I was not able to do more to protect those people, no one admonishes me for it. They seem sure that I did everything possible. I hope that it's true, even if I cannot bring myself to believe it. Soon Bemile and I will return home, and we'll once again take the long way round. My one piece in all of this is that Sinlos will be far behind me in a matter of days, and I intend to keep it there. Yeah, 3 minutes. 3 minutes isn't too bad. That's, I mean, the delay on the stream between when the chat pops up and when you actually hear my answer is about 40 seconds, I think. So sitting there for 3 minutes isn't too bad. All right, so that's another storyline dead end. So this time when we jump back in, I'll still talk to... No, I'll side with Bemile in that original argument, but then we will cross the bridge. Yeah, so now that we've played through one way, each time I play through, I'm going to start skipping what we've already seen. And if I skip anything that you haven't seen, either go back to earlier this stream or watch the last stream, and you'll catch up with the storyline. But that way we can start really powering through and ticking off all of the different storylines. My grip on my lantern tightens as the fog around us thickens. While the forests in this area are relatively safe compared to Sinlos, I can't help but feel my hair stand on end the further we get. My free hand fingers the hilt of my sword, something akin to a nervous reflex.
Have you seen it before?
Bemile breaks the silence, either sensing my unease or assuaging his own. I hope it's the latter.
I haven't. I've had no reason to go near this cursed lake until now. What of you?
Bemile scratches his chin casually, as though I asked what his favorite food is. How's the sound in the stream, by the way? I've adjusted the volume in-game to try and make the voiceovers stand out loud enough that you guys can hear it, but also without overpowering it myself. So if you can, H2O, if you can jump in and let me know how the sound is. If I need to change anything, I'd rather change it sooner rather than later.
I traveled the long way around it once before. Not so pleasant. Something about it just frays your nerves. Although, even being near it is enough.
So I'm not the only one who feels it. A sense of relief hits me, but not enough to undo the buzzing of anxiety. The lake, Sinlos. Most try their best to avoid it all their lives. The hundreds who die attempting to cross its unearthly black water, dragged to death by the creatures lurking within, aren't exactly a secret.
No wonder you were assigned this mission.
Sweet, thank you, Headshua. There are a few who have had first-hand experience with the place, even if from a distance, who'll probably keep being picked whenever they need someone to cross, for however long he's with us. Bemele shrugs, bringing my attention back to the dark path before us.
At least we're taking the bridge this time. It'll only take 2 days instead of double that, and the sooner this place is behind us, the better.
It would be preferable not to risk it. But time is of the essence. We don't really have a choice.
One of our allied villagers, Hamia, is being harassed by brigadiers, a band of ruffians. We don't have many guards to send as an assist, only Bemele and myself. The least we can do is arrive before it's too late to be of any use. So this is what happened last time when we decided to go along. We took too long, and Hamia suffered because of it. These kind of squabbles happen often, but have to be put down lest they turn into a blood grudge or an all-out war. The last we heard, neither option was that far off.
I can also see why they chose you to come out here.
I glance at Bemele, an eyebrow raised. A slight smile plays across his lips.
You're always so calm and so serious. Nothing can get to you. You're the best choice they had.
A smile now tugs at my own lips. I would like to thank him, but that wouldn't be so calm and serious as he just described. And if that's how he sees me, I'd like to keep it that way. My lack of reaction only makes his smile grow, and he chuckles a bit before refocusing on the path. I do the same. It wouldn't be right to let my guard down in a place like this. Bemele appears to feel differently, however.
You know the town on the other side of the lake, though. It's not so similar to ours. If all goes well, perhaps we'll have enough time to enjoy the new area.
For the most part, I ignore him, nodding when applicable. Bemele is a talkative sort, and if chatting helps keeps his worries down and his sword hand ready, I have no complaints. After a time, the thick fog surrounding us begins to clear. A slick wooden dock comes into view, and with it, the sounds of water gently lapping at its sides. Bemele shifts beside me, stretching his lantern arm as far as it will go. He seems tense.
Someone's already here.
A young woman stands by the dock, eyeing us warily. Does she also intend to cross tonight? Evidently, she has the same question as we step up next to her. It's clear she isn't simply passing by. She's waiting. The stranger nods curtly to us.
Margaret.
Kika the Steadfast.
Bemele. Hello?
There's a stuffy silence. Margaret turns to gaze out across the lake, expression unclear. With not much to say, Bemele and I do the same. From here, the black surface of the lake looks disarmingly calm. Wind rushes across its surface, a sound like whispering. Though perhaps it actually is whispering, I concentrate trying to place the difference, searching for breaks and rhythm. After a few seconds, I feel foolish. It doesn't matter what the noise is. Sorry, I got distracted halfway through the sentence. Doesn't matter what the noise is, whether I hear them or not, we're not alone. The Nixie are out there. Even PewDiePie gets groceries. That sounds like a brilliant game. I might look it up. Cheers for stopping by, H2O. Make sure you leave a like on the stream or share it around or whatever. Really does help us out. But yeah, cheers for dropping by. Have a good day. Have a good game. Have a good day playing PewDiePie Gets Groceries. Sounds like a hoot. I'll look it up. A feeling that I can't quite shake tells me they've already noticed my little group of people on their shores. It feels hostile. My stomach sinks, and instead I address Bemele.
Where is the guide?
Unless he's on the center island, or on the complete other side, your guess is as good as mine. It's dark as pitch out there.
Panic rises inside me, panic I try hard to quell. Yeah, I'll look it up. So it's on Google Play Store? So it's an iOS Android game?
We can't cross without him, and we need to get going soon.
You can't cross with him either.
The woman behind us, Margaret, cuts in with something like a snort.
What?
I know the guide will be here tonight. I have already made arrangements with him to cross.
Bem and I share a look. The woman seems haughty and willing to put up a fuss.
I have his word he'll take me today. It would be wiser for the two of you to begin the trip around if you're really in such a hurry. Or you can make camp here and wait for him to make the trip back if you prefer.
I don't need to turn my attention to Bemele to know that he's getting riled up. I step in before he can say something rash.
Even if that is so, my companion and I must begin the trip tonight.
Margaret is unimpressed and opens her mouth to argue further.
We'll wait for the guide to arrive before coming to a conclusion about any of this.
She clamps her mouth shut and lets out a sigh.
You can do as you like.
With the matter tentatively settled, Bemele moves away. His finger begins to tap loudly against the top of his hilt. He shifts from one foot to another, then groans.
What's that bastard even up to?
I almost visibly start, but manage to restrain myself. He probably doesn't know any better. I'm sure of that. It's not even worth mentioning.
With a mouth like that, you shouldn't even have the right to ask the guide to take you across.
How ludicrous. He's faced far worse than a bit of foul language.
Do you know anything that's happened with this lake?
I know enough.
Margaret is clearly not convinced, but she shrugs and makes a show of turning her back
The
to
guide's
him.
father is Garvin the Exemplar. Garvin never accepted the guide as his son, all the way up until he died in this lake. Your statement could be seen as tasteless.
Because you called him a bastard, and he was never accepted, so he is a bastard, and that's a bit of a shit thing to say.
Oh.
Exactly. Bemele rubs the back of his neck, his face regretful.
My apologies to the guide. I didn't mean it that way. I never knew about his... well, that.
A smile spreads across my face, one I quickly wipe away. He really did just misspeak. The silence slowly stretches between the three of us, growing more awkward with each passing second. Margaret seems irritated and Bemele abashed. So we're going to side with Bemele and go out onto the bridge this time.
I know you. You are brash but not intentionally cruel. I'm sure all is well.
So from this point on, we're going to start skipping stuff that we've already seen. So this conversation up until when we choose to go on the bridge, we've already played through. As I said, if you feel like you're missing something, check the stream yesterday or check earlier in this stream. But if I keep reading through the story every time we make a new decision, it's going to take up a zillion years to get anywhere. So from this point on, we are going to start skipping stuff that we've already seen. So we're saying, I believe we should go.
And I believe you.
So the guide's given us the option. We can either stay or if we all go across, there's too many people and one of us will die before reaching the other end. Bemele's reply is firm. My steadfast seems almost weak in comparison to its certainty.
We shouldn't waste more time. Let's shove off.
The guide slowly turns around, without even a nod to show his agreement. Margaret stares at Bemele and me, something of a resolve in her gaze. Then she follows after the guide. At least she didn't insist we stay behind.
We should do what we can to protect her. It's our fault she's being put in even further danger.
So yeah, this part of the story we played through yesterday, so we'll skip. Right. So there's a monster behind Bemele. Bemele places a hand gently on my shoulder. So we're out in the lake. I've turned around to talk to Bemele, and this dude is behind him. Put my hand over his. I feel Bemele start as I reciprocate his touch, but just as quickly, a smile replaces his shock. The moment is pleasant, a small balm against a large burn. I harden my expression, and Bemele follows suit. He moves his free arm down. I fully link my arm with his arm with mine, and now properly settled, we look forward. So he's keeping an eye on the monster behind us, and I'm guiding him as we head forwards. So we skip through this bit. Pull Bemele forwards. I shift around, pulling Bemele behind me. The prowler lunges after him, barely missing Bemele, but striking my lantern instead. The fire goes out, and the two of us are plunged into an unearthly darkness. Then there's a slick splash. I realize the Nyx has retreated into the water. Somehow, Bemelay and I are still standing. We're still here. Skip! Oh, he's grabbed me by the foot, kicking off. That was close. I forgot what's coming up next. I kick my leg out as far as I can, and the Nyx's hold slips. It can't pull with the momentum I've gained against it. Margaret rushes to my side, a lantern hanging out towards the Nyx. The light brushes off its face. We see it for an instant, its eyes wide. Then it slides back into the smooth surface of the water. Bemelay grabs Margaret and I both, helping us towards the center of the bridge and cussing under his breath.
I only looked away for 1 second.
It's fine, Bemelay. We're all fine.
Are you actually all right?
Margaret cocks her head down, examining my ankle, but there's nothing but a wet smudge around my trousers.
I am fine.
I say that, though, I don't actually want to let go of Bemelay. I need to, in order to relight our lantern and provide us actual safety, but I feel such a strong desire not to be alone in this moment. I shake my head roughly and let go of him, relighting the lantern as fast as I'm able.
Kika, thank you. Again. You saved my life. I won't let this happen again.
Yes. Yes. It would be good for all of us to pay more attention.
Open your eyes, man. Look around. Use those peepers. Margaret nods solemnly. Suddenly, it seems like we're all on the same side. It isn't only Bemelay and I. She is with us, more than simply as a presence. The guide's voice, as cold as that monster's grasp, ends my train of thought.
We lost the lantern I threw. The Nyx grabbed it after the light went out.
Right. So now we're deciding how we're going to march forwards. We've lost a lamp. So last time we left Margaret in the middle and me and Bemelay stayed at the back. So this time I'm going to move forwards into the middle is what we'll skip to. So I'd like to move up. Thank you. So from this point on, it is new. This is a different path we're going down. Margaret stands slightly off to the side to let us pass. Careful not to get too close to the water's edge.
Thank you kindly, Margaret.
I nod at her. Bemelay and I position ourselves a few feet away from the guide, and in no time, we've fallen into step in our new positions.
So, I don't want to sound like a child, but how much longer until we arrive at the halfway point?
Margaret chuckles, reflecting the amusement that I don't want to vocalize.
We still have some ways to go.
Damn.
I suppress my laughter yet again at his pouting response. The gloom we've been under dissipates slightly, like light flickering through the fog.
The first trial tends to be the most difficult. I believe we will only react better from this point on.
I like the way you think.
Then a gleam enters Bemelay's eyes and he grins.
I think Kika deserves a round of applause. Her quick reflexes are owed the utmost appreciation.
He leans softly into my shoulder, trying to get me to what?
It was indeed a sight. You're quite capable. Bemelay was also a sight, but for very different reasons. The way he froze with his mouth all agape was a laugh in itself.
So this time we're going to try and save Margaret. I think there's so many different branches. Like I could stay in the middle and then when we get to that sharp corner go back for Margaret, whereas last time I left her. Whereas now we're in the middle, maybe she'll make that corner easier.
You should know, she and I are usually on equal footing.
The only reason you had footing at all is because she pulled you back.
Bemelay laughs self-consciously, scratching his head.
That's very true. You can always count on Kika.
I keep my eyes steadily ahead, unsure of how I should respond. I'm pleased, almost grateful to hear what they think of me, but I don't know what I could say that wouldn't seem pathetic. Instead, I contribute the best way I can. I keep my focus on the path ahead of us. Without a response from me, the conversation quickly dies out. Still, it eases my heart to be on such friendly terms with my companions. I have to actively stop myself from being distracted by it. Sweet. Suddenly, I notice the guide seems to be getting further away from us. He's speeding up. I do the same to match his pace and end up moving at a light
Guide,
jog.
why are we going faster?
So at this point last time, we were at the back. So by the time we realized that they were running away, they were already quite a bit, and Margaret was in the middle. He doesn't reply. He doesn't even look back at me. Instead, his speed almost doubles. I glance back, worried, but Margaret's keeping up with us. The guide keeps moving faster and faster until we're at an all-out sprint. Figures in the dark fog fly past us at a blur, and it occurs to me the branching path in the bridges appear to be sinking. I swallow my rising panic. The guide shouts something, but it's drowned out by the frantic pounding of our footsteps. I'm trying to piece together what he said. Don't, stop, turn. When he takes a masterfully sharp right down a different path, using his own momentum and the sleek wood to slide into the new direction with no loss of speed. Despite the sudden turn, my reflexes enable me to keep up close behind him.
We're making a right!
Bemele is on my heels, following me to the turn. I glance back once more. Margaret, although being further behind than before, also makes the turn. We're all still together. So yeah, last time she didn't make the turn and the bridge started sinking, and I had the option to either go back or to go without her. So we went without her. So far, Margaret has survived longer than she did last time. As the night wears on, our strength rapidly fades. Even my stamina is being challenged. I can't imagine what this must be like for Margaret. She's holding her side as she runs, clearly cramping from the exercise. How much longer will this last? People have to rest sometime. Almost as in response to my thought, the guide abruptly halts. I skid to a stop as well, sliding on the surface of the wood.
Why did we stop?
Bemele's voice is tired, but his guard is up. The guide doesn't answer, just stares at something slightly out of view. I step up to join him, following his gaze further down the path. Alright, so this is Lou. Last time we left Lou behind as well. There, curled in a little ball, illuminated by the lanterns of night. Light cowers a person. His hand grips his head, and he rocks slightly from side to side, mumbling incoherently. So at this point, we need to decide whether we're trying to do a save everyone run through this time, or if we're just going to focus. We're just going to focus. We're doing the entire stream with a bit of an Irish accent now. We're just going to focus on Margaret and try and get her through as far as possible. Or are we going to try and get everyone through, which means taking Lou on with us? What do you reckon? Do we try and save Lou as well as Margaret? Or do we just focus on Margaret and we'll do a focus on Lou next time? And then we'll try and do a focus on everyone a little bit later on. What do you reckon? Focus on Lou, focus on Margaret, or keep going with both? If you have an opinion, jump into the chat and let me know. If not, I'll continue on. I might try and do a save everyone. But I don't know how that's going to go. So I'm going to save at this point. That way we can jump back to here if we need to. Save everyone or keep running? What do you reckon? What do you reckon? We'll give the chat a few more seconds to decide. Because I know there's a delay, so I'd like to give you guys a little bit of... Try and give you guys a little bit of time. Although my stream health just dropped a bit. Video output low. What do you mean video output low? Shouldn't be any buffering. Alright, hopefully that fixes up. We're going to continue on. I'm going to try and do a save everyone.
It's a man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm struck with an array of questions. What's going on? Why would he even wander out into these bridges on his own? Did he make it this far by himself? Or were there others with him? If that's somehow the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above him, seemingly only just now having the strength to lift his head. His expression, with the deepest sadness, along with clear markings of terror, are scrawled across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
I snap my eyes away from the man and instead to the guide's cold, implacable face.
No! We can't just leave him here.
Alright, stream health's
We've
back.
managed fine enough already. And these
Hopefully you
creatures
guys
will
survived.
probably pluck him away as soon as we've gone. Without light, it's certain he'll die.
He won't make it regardless.
The guide turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I almost feel uncomfortable at his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I glance at the others. Bemele is outraged, but Margaret is staring down at the man with something like fear. She's uneasy, but doesn't want to voice her concerns. I'm trying to think of some sort of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges. I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
That's 'cause you're a dick. Adrenaline surges through my veins and I tense up. It's a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, but merely to show us the way. We're on our own. Margaret, Bemele and I frantically share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. None of us have a desire to speak and to be the first to make a choice. The man standing now, though still hunched with his arms wrapped around himself as if expecting a blow. He stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to him?
Are you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
No, so this is a branching point, so it always asks us to return to the main menu. So we go no, and save. So that way I can jump back to this if this whole thing goes pear-shaped. He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone.
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you, but that's not how things always go. It doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's response is meandering. The words themselves seem to be in jest, but he's still barely looking at us, fidgeting with his hands. Bemele frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first time.
What part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
Bemele is a very serious so-and-so. He doesn't like jokes very much.
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You were curled up in a ball when we met.
Exactly. Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no. Sounds like you've been talking with my father.
So yeah, a lot of this conversation is much the same as our playthrough yesterday, but since we have Margaret with us, she is throwing in stuff, so I'm not going to skip through this bit, just because I don't know how Margaret can affect it. He lets out a weak little laugh, coupled with an eyebrow raise, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. The man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Bemele huffs, tossing his hands into the air.
That's not even the right way.
It could be, if he's trying to get to the side we came from.
Ta-da! Margaret has logical thinking,
He
Bemele.
must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore that he started on.
The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There is no response to this remark, unsure of what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
I look over the man's body, noting the scrawniness of his limbs. Scrawny, but not necessarily lacking in muscle. The bravado he was showing as he tried to leave us has faded yet again, and now he's standing quietly, looking to us as if watching a play. Interested, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering? It's not mine, and you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Bemele looks at Margaret, who avoids the gaze.
Perhaps I could have let him share my light before, but the guide has said the one with him has to remain behind, and I simply wouldn't be able to manage it.
Bemele's hands turn to fists. He looks away but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. Oops. No, return. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared comes to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another person. Why must he get involved now? Why can't he not just leave us to make our own decisions?
You... Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something I cannot place, and he starts to shuffle back down the way we came, arms still clenched around himself. Margaret might not be able to take him, but there's another way this could be solved. I could stay back with him. It'll put Bemele and myself at significantly more risk, but at least this man will stand a chance. Oop. Jump back a step. Right, so that's our option. At this point, we either leave him behind, or we stay behind with him and try to bring him with us. So we'll give the chat a moment to chuck in your opinion. Do we leave him behind, or do we try and take him with us? What's your options? What's your options? What's your opinion? What do you reckon? And while you think, I will have a sip of water and hum some nice thinking music. Alright, we've already saved, so if I try and stay back with him and I end up dying, we'll just jump back to this point and continue on from here without staying back. So I think I'm going to stay back with him. We'll give the chat just one more second to let us know what's happening. And then we'll continue on. Alright, continuing on. Let's stay with him. I straighten my arm out like a rod, blocking his progress past me. He stops, perplexed.
I am not afraid to stay behind, as long as Bemele can remain up front with you in your light.
The guy doesn't say anything. Doesn't even blink. Margaret covers her mouth with her hand, muffling some sort of gasp. Bemele smiles sadly at me.
One can always count on you, Kika.
Alright, so Bemele and Margaret are staying with the guide, and we're dropping behind. The man, meanwhile, stands with his mouth agape, truly and genuinely shocked.
Well, what will it be?
Margaret sputters for a second, searching for words, but clearly unaware of what to say. Bemele chimes in before she can get anything audible out.
I can stay in between you and the guide. I don't need to be right next to either of you. That way you won't have to worry about a repeat of what happened earlier.
I wouldn't refuse you being here.
The guide doesn't acknowledge them. He stares at the stranger. The man shakes under the attention.
No, really. I could just go on my own. It's fine.
We're wasting time here, guys. Aren't the platforms sinking? I step closer to him, lending support he seems to desperately need. I give him a hug. He pulls a dagger from his waist pocket and stabs me in the neck. Life lesson, kids. Don't hug strangers.
You do not need to go this alone. I will protect you.
The man stares. Burpee time. The man stares at me. I return his gaze, willing him to see my certainty. There need be no blood spilled tonight. Slowly, the fear melts off of his face, replaced with something like resignation. Then he drops his gaze to the floor.
Okay.
All right.
I grasp his shoulder and turn to the rest of the group.
You should get a head start, correct? You'll have to put some distance between us.
No! No, we don't have to do that!
Yes, we do.
Unnervingly, there's a hint of emotion in the guide's usually empty voice. Anger. He starts to walk away, not waiting for a reply. Margaret grits her teeth, eyes filled with fears and tears and face flushed. She mumbles something in a small voice, something I'm just near enough to hear.
Why am I always so powerless?
No idea, love. I don't know anything about your backstory or your life. The statement catches me somewhat off guard. Margaret, powerless? She's not a mercenary to be sure, but she seems so certain of herself. Then again, I don't know the reason that she needs to cross this lake. Before I can decide whether I should respond, the tears from her eyes fade from her eyes. Margaret takes a deep breath.
Please be careful.
Always. She takes a few steps back, lingering near enough for Bemele. Bemele smiles, first at the stranger, and then at me.
Take care back here, all right? We'll all be together again when we reach the halfway island. It won't be too much longer now.
But doesn't this stranger want to go back to where we started? Are we dragging him back to his dad? Because he did mention that... He mentioned something about his father. And if he came from the other shore, are we taking him back to his dad?
We'll have a nice little camp out, and you can properly introduce yourself to us. Maybe even tell a real joke or two.
The man emits a nervous little laugh and ducks his head. The prospect must not be too enticing for him. With the stranger having pulled himself out of the conversation, Bemele looks seriously at me.
I'm sorry to put you in even more.
Stop.
Bemele shakes his head, still
I don't
smiling.
begrudge you at all. In fact, I'm glad you did. All I want is for you to remember that goal. Each of us, together, on the island, and then on the other shore, safe. This isn't about what our job is, or where other people need us to be.
I wonder if you can actually survive with everyone. Because the guide has said that at least one of us will die. And that was when there was 3. Now we're adding a 4th person. There's 4 of us now. I don't even know if we can get... I think we might be able to get everyone to the island. But I don't know if everyone can survive the second day. I nod in response. Bemele opens his mouth and closes it and swallows hard.
You two.
I'm surprised to hear his voice wavering slightly. He swallows again and then continues.
You two should look out for each other.
He takes a few steps back, as if to go, but his eyes don't leave mine. He hesitates for a moment, then crosses back to me and puts a hand on my shoulder. It's a branch point. So chuck a save in. So save 3 is just before we decide whether we're taking him with us or not. So remember that one. And then again, we have tons of save points, so we'll just keep doing this. He smiles at me, a smile full of pride and nervousness and fear. I smile back, doing my best to communicate gratitude and my resolve. I can't tell whether he understands. He softly glides his hand down the width of my arm before moving away for good. Then he takes his position ahead of Margaret.
Watch out for yourself, too. Not just for everyone else.
I will.
The guide's figure disappears, with only his lantern to lead the way. Bemele and Margaret are finally forced to leave us behind and catch up with him. I watch them disappear into the fog, an odd feeling in the pit of my stomach. I can't recall the last time I had difficulty seeing someone leave.
You should go after them.
I start. I almost forgot the man was there, standing right next to me. Now he looks at me with desperate eyes.
You don't need to do this.
What?
I'd rather know you returned to them safe, and that you all had a chance to make it back together. The way they acted. Having to go on without you. No one would feel that way for me. I'm not worth it.
You have some serious self-confidence issues, buddy.
That's not...
I stop, unable to say the last word. Can I claim that he's wrong? This is the one thing he has seemed so sure of, and I don't even know him. Empty platitudes, maybe worse than nothing at all. He smirks at my mumbling reply. I'm caught off guard by the change. With only that it seems he's in his element.
It's true.
He continues to grin, more so to himself than to me.
You lot certainly made a scene, huh? That's nice. Being loved and all.
He clarifies, He clarifies after I must have given an undesired reaction to the statement. I'm so disconnected with myself, and I'm unsure if surprise appeared on my face or if it was a lack of emotion that put him off.
I don't know exactly what kind of love it is you share, but there has to be a bond in that group of yours.
Well, me and Bemele are pretty close, but we don't know Margaret from a bar of soap.
I mean, especially with the big one. You wouldn't look at anyone like that.
Yeah, that's Bemele, the big one. He laughs and then speaks quietly.
It doesn't matter. I can still try for the other shore. Go.
Ah!
I can still try for the other shore. Go.
Right, we have another choice to leave him or keep him with us. I'm going to try and keep him with us, I think. So we're just going to keep adding new saves and then we can backtrack through. We're going to try and keep him with us. I will stay. My certainty shocks him. I can tell immediately he has returned to his meeker self. The man starts to speak again, but I interrupt.
We should start walking. That should be enough of a head start for them.
He hesitates a moment, but ultimately begins walking at my side. I'm relieved. I can never be quite sure what will come from this one. We move in silence. The man doesn't seem to want to speak anymore, but he keeps glancing at me, as if expecting something. Like a knife in the face! Somehow, his odd behavior is comforting rather than disconcerting. Perhaps it's because he's more nervous about all this than I am. It's putting me at ease, making me feel more capable. I shouldn't allow myself to get comfortable, however. We're in a more dangerous position than ever. The whispering from the lake, so faint after Bemele's close call, now surges forth. It grows nigh unbearable, the creatures teeming below the surface. I dare not speculate on what has got them so excited.
Have you a name?
The man chuckles dryly.
Barely.
I don't really know what I am to take from that.
This time his laugh is more of a bark, quickly out and swallowed back up, then he frowns.
Lou. Only 2 letters. So barely.
I see.
At least we got his name now.
What are you doing out here without the guide?
Perhaps the question isn't appropriate to ask. After all, only the darkness of circumstances spurs someone to cross Sinlos. But this situation is very strange. I might even go as far to say that it's suspicious. Of course, we already know the answer to this. Lou has been asking the guide to take him across, and the guide keeps saying no, because he doesn't think that Lou is strong enough to cross. I know that's not fair, but I can't help it. Years spent anticipating danger have made me wary.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know myself.
What does that mean? Is that some sort of joke too? Or do you genuinely not remember how you arrived where you are?
No, it wasn't a joke. Or, well, there is a point to it all.
Then his voice, already by nature light and airy, drops to a whisper.
But I don't know why I even tried. You'd think that I'd be able to call a spade already, right?
He looks up, noticing my gaze still leveled at him, and shrugs.
I'd rather not talk about it.
As what has become the norm, I don't fully understand what he means, but I can at least guess that he's not very happy with himself at present. And like it or not, he won't be sharing his real reasons with me anytime soon.
What about you? What brings you out on this little adventure?
People. On the other side. People who need my help.
You have someone waiting on you? Then why are you risking yourself on me instead of worrying about what's going to happen to them?
Good question. I feel my brows furrow as my speck of alarm. From my speck of alarm. Is that really what he took from this? I survey his face with a flick of my eyes. There's no mischievous gleam in his look now. He's dead serious. We hold eye contact for a moment until he yet again stares down at the ground.
Sorry. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. It just fell out somehow. I wasn't thinking.
You're important as well, or say nothing. You're important as well, man. You are a living human being. Everyone survives. No man left behind. His stare shoots back up at me, eyes wide.
Of course I'm going to be there for those counting on me. But you aren't nothing. I won't simply turn my back on you.
He smiles sadly. The kind of smile only someone who has experienced great hardship has. A smile that I'm all too familiar with.
I probably have to disagree. Still, that's nice of you to say.
We may not know each other well, but you wanted us to go on without you for our own safety. You even tried to have a sense of humor about it. That counts for something.
My statement is far from grand, yet he becomes distinctly bashful all of a sudden. Twitching his legs with each step, he hangs his head and mumbles the next phrase. Sadly, he seems unaccustomed to receiving praise.
That's true. Thank you for staying back with me. It's kind of nice.
And then Lou stabs us in the face.
No need to thank me.
Oh, right. I can't even show gratitude correctly. Of course.
I go to give him a look, but he's smiling. He looks less pitiful than usual. He almost seems content.
It is not funny to make a joke out of thinking that way about yourself.
If you don't want people to say things like that, then you shouldn't reject their thanks. Either I did right by thanking you, or I did wrong.
Fine. You're welcome.
I do like this guy. He has a good sense of logic. This time he lets out a real laugh, not
I'm
a short
glad.
one. He reaches his arms out in front of him and elongates his stride, so he's walking a little bit ahead of me. It sits wrong with me. He's relaxed and completely unguarded. He's even fine with distancing himself from the light and the odd comments that he's made so far. Then a thought strikes me. Maybe the reason he's so calm is that he doesn't care what happens to him. My heart plummets into my gut. For a time, there's a relative peace in the silence between us when Lou sighs heavily.
I never could have seen myself in a situation like this. It seems things really aren't over until they're over.
Did you think it was over?
He doesn't answer immediately, and when he does, his reply is accompanied by him grasping himself, like he might fall apart if he lets go.
Yeah, I did.
That would have been the normal outcome for his situation. Yeah, alone, lightless. I shouldn't have asked. I must have let a frown slip through because Lou smiles a non-smile. He stretches his hand behind his neck and gives a little chuckle.
Something really is wrong with me. Somehow, I feel lighter.
Alright, well maybe this is good. If he's feeling better than he was, then perhaps his view of himself
I
will
wonder
improve.
who'll still be left standing when this is truly all over.
That's a slightly creepy thing to say, buddy. What?
Everyone will be.
Everyone survives. I say it firmly to end the discussion, but Lou's expression grows more grave and unusually sympathetic.
You know that's not possible, don't you? Someone will go. You should focus on making sure it's someone else.
You don't seem to be concerned with self-preservation.
They came out more hostile than I expected, but he doesn't seem to mind it.
True, but it's not the same for me.
I still don't know how I'm supposed to interact with a person like him. Making conversation is already not a strength that I possess. Regardless, Lou echoing the sentiment was not something I had expected. Hey, Thomas Taylor. Good morning to you, buddy. I mean, it's nearly 5 o'clock in the afternoon to me, but I'm guessing you're over in the UK. How you doing, Thomas? Because in the UK at the moment, if I am not wrong, it's about 8:15. How you doing, Thomas? The whispers from the lake, which had already grown, now speak faster and clearer. The individual words are almost audible. I'd likely be able to make them out if I knew the Licks language. For a split second, I wished that I did. The light in the distance still drifts along in the same manner as it did when we first started walking, which I take to mean the path hasn't turned so far. Hopefully that means we're still on the right path. But the light, it got brighter? It's strong enough that I have to glance away for a second. The next time I look, the light has grown. The bridge is on fire. I grab Lou's arm without thinking. He's standing there stiff, staring at the glow, eyes dull.
We're going to run.
Alright, so last time we played through, we were up with the guide. He sets the bridge on fire because there's a lot of nicks there. So, and we could run through, only just making it through the burning bridge. This time, we're a lot further back, so I don't know how we're going to go. To hell with the guide's order. If we don't go now, we'll never get anywhere again. Lou doesn't respond. I give his arm a small tug and he appears to come to himself and nods at me. I make the decision that I won't let go of his arm. I don't know what'll happen to him if I let go. We take off, the heat growing with each step. The dankness of the bridge means the fire is spreading slowly, but it still makes me question how it began in the first place. There is no end to how wrong this place is. It takes 20 paces before the air around us ripples and starts folding into itself. Thick smoke pours over us, stinging like scorpions at our eyes. I cover my mouth with my free arm to keep breathing. And soon, we're at the fire itself. The bridge lurches between us as if the beams supporting it are starting to give way to the thousands of flying sparks. Lou stumbles and is against me for support, but we keep our ground, and I start pulling him through the blaze. We don't have time to gather our bearings. Who knows how long we have until the bridge collapses or is devoured by flames. As we push through the smoke, you can hear the crackling. Lou, wheezing for breath beside me, figures emerge. Bemele and Margaret. I look at the two and the situation around them, baffled. None of the individual pieces make any sense until the reality of it hits me all at once. The guide is gone. Margaret paws at the bridge. Her lantern is at her side. It's her glasses she's missing. Bemele is off to the other side, lanternless, with only the flickering embers in the wind to keep him out of the darkness. I want to pretend that they're both fine, that they'll be capable of handling themselves, but I know that's just wishful thinking. Both of them are in danger. I don't know how the Nixie feel about fire, how daring they'll be with it so close by, but I can't assume that this is an opportunity they would want to miss. I have to do something, and I have to do it now. I waste not a moment more, rushing to Bemele, Lou in tow. Bemele and I arrived here together. We agreed to see it through to the end. We promised to protect each other. I have to be there for him. When I reached his side and illuminate his face with my lantern, he's beaming. I'm sure some part of him thought that when we parted that it must have been for good.
It's a relief to see you. Both of you.
Then there's a scream. Margaret is nowhere to be seen. The light of her lantern is gone. She's trapped in the darkness.
Margaret?
Did she move? Did she fall? Did the bridge collapse?
Kick her!
I hear her and turn in her direction. There, through the smoke, I see her looking up at me. She's trying to stand, but she's struggling for some reason. Then I see a gleam of white on slick black behind her and understand why. And Nyx grabs hold of Margaret's dress. Just as she gets to her feet, it pulls. She slams back to the ground, head hitting the bridge with a sickening thud. Margaret groans and starts to yell.
Let go of me! Let go!
She's flailing, kicking. Her legs and arms, she's disorientated. She doesn't know where it's coming from. The Nyx yanks her again. Another grabs hold and she feels the tug enough to grab onto the portion of her dress and tear it. She's trying to rip it off. I run to her side and finally, my light finally illuminating her form. Seeing the light spill onto her, the Nyx retreat back into the water, but they don't let go of her dress. Margaret screams, being dragged across the bridge. She digs her nails into the wood to stop herself, hands bleeding, but each soggy hold she finds slips through her gasp. I reach my hand out to her.
Grab it!
Margaret looks at me, kicking again with her leg. She doesn't even try to reach for me. She knows it's not going to fix this. Then she disappears. There's a quiet splash.
No!
I rush to the edge of the bridge, searching the water for some sign of her, but there's nothing. Nothing but the placid black sheen of the lake. They took her down with the rest of them. Tears burn my eyes.
I'm sorry, Margaret. None of this should have happened.
So that's what happens if you try and save both of them at once. Margaret dies. So the only way to save Margaret is to stay as a group, which means we can't save Lou next time. Then a warm hand clasps my shoulder. Bemele. He smiles through a pained expression. I stare at him. Can barely keep myself together.
What happened to the guide? Is he also?
My voice cracks in spite of myself. I don't know I want to hear the answer, but it has to be said.
No. That man's still slinking around this hell on Earth. The bridge jerked, Margaret's glasses fell off, and the guide kept going. I stayed, but I kept my distance in case...
He looks away.
In case there was a repeat of last time. I shouldn't have stayed so far off.
Exactly, Tom Taylor. Margaret is down. Have you got 2 accounts? Or is it just a massive coincidence that we had Thomas Taylor and now we have Tom Taylor? Have we got 2 Tom Taylors?
It's not your fault. I could have thrown my lantern or gone to her sooner or anything.
Kika.
I'm furious with myself. It's our fault Margaret was put in danger in the first place. Margaret didn't even get to choose whether Lou came either. I made that call. So the first time we played through, I let everyone die. Margaret stayed in the middle, missed the turn, and I didn't go back for her, and we left Lou to travel by himself. This time I tried to save everyone. That's why we lost Margaret. She was so kind to us, and yet when the choice had to be made, I threw her to the side. Bemele seems to have read my mind and comforts me over the thoughts I leave unsaid.
Listen to me. We tried. You never gave up on anyone. Not for a second.
He puts his second hand on my other shoulder and resists the urge to embrace me fully. The bridge trembles underneath us once more. I gather what wits I have at my disposal.
We need to leave. Which way did the guide go?
I don't know for sure, though he went off in that direction. The fog overtook him, but I didn't see him turn.
That will work. Lou?
I look around for him, realizing he's not actually with me any longer. At some point, I let go of his arm. He's standing to the side, gaze glazed, transfixed on the darkness. He seems completely unaware of everything that's happened. The fire, the Nixie, the death. I step forward and yank him back to my side.
What are you doing?
He flinches at the unexpected contact and looks attentively at me, but he doesn't offer an explanation.
I'm sorry.
That's all he ever says. I let go of him.
Both of you stay close. We are not going to separate again.
We keep down the path, the flames still gradually gnawing on the planks behind us. The guard doesn't turn, the guide doesn't turn up, nor do any signs of him, but we push on. We will not stop moving. Then we do. The bridge comes to a dead end of rotted out boards collapsed into the lake. For a moment our breathing stops at once. If this was the way that led to the island, then... I flip back to face the others, my expression unaffected. I'm not going to allow panic to sap this group of judgment.
Let's look for another branch.
Oops. My mistake. I resolutely begin retracing our path, the others following without protest. Our regression is silent except for our footfalls and the snapping of soggy wood. Attempting to burn. We frequently have to step over smoldering sections, trying to come alight. At one point, we even have to walk one at a time sideways to avoid a wildly flickering small fire billowing out black smoke. Just as my spirit is beginning to dim, we come across different directions to take. Among all the forks, there are only 2 paths that aren't collapsed or too consumed by fire to risk following.
We're going to have to pick one.
Which means we're going to have to make a choice, chat, so get ready. Bemele sounds uncharacteristically doubtful of himself. Lou's gaze is flicking down either path. There's a palpable sense of anxiety coming from him.
I don't know. I don't know which way.
Then you're useless to me!
It's alright.
But it's not alright. We have to have something to go off of, anything at all. A cold sweat trickles its way down my back. Before anyone tries to randomly choose, a noise catches my attention. I hastily address the 2.
Did you hear that?
A whistle.
It came from the right.
Lou and I trade looks. This could be the signal we need, but what if it isn't?
Do those monsters know how to whistle?
I don't know. It seems unlikely. The air isn't pleasant to them. They're underwater creatures.
We should go right, I think. To where the sound came from.
I'm a little surprised Lou is offering his own opinion. I mean, it's good to hear, however. I take a deep breath.
I agree. There's more of a chance the whistle was a sign for good over ill.
Our course decided. Oh, we don't have to decide it. Dang it, we don't get to choose. We move as one down the right path, no longer hesitating. As we follow the bridge down, there's no sign of the end. There's no need to debate between directions again. We start to outpace the fire, one danger thankfully fading away, but the night continues to lighten regardless. The bridges all sink at sunrise. I glance at the sky, realizing what's happening. The sun's rising. The bridges will sink into the water as the darkness disappears and takes us with them. We'll be lost. It suddenly seems pointless. We don't even know whether we've gone the right way. We still haven't caught up to the guide. We can't outswim the Nixie, and we can't outrun the dawn. We're going to run out of time. Yet, we keep moving forward. And finally, our perseverance is rewarded. The silhouette of an island rises in the distance. The island grows rapidly larger, and soon the sense of earth and trees reach us. In spite of all the horrors of this night, a dock emerges from the fog before us, welcoming us to safety. We reach the shore. Alright, cool. So we've reached the halfway point. We're back on land. I don't believe it. Until I've stepped off the wood and my boots sink into the soft sand. I walk further inland like a corpse. Don't go mentioning corpses where there's zombie monsters around. My sole instinct to flee from the waterline. My hazy eyes single in on something ahead. The guide stands on an outcropping in the distance, watching like a sentinel. He doesn't even come to greet us. I stare at him for a moment, not even able to feel alarmed at my own lack of feelings about the situation. He uses his staff to gesture to the forest. English is fun when you get the hang of it, but luckily for you guys, I speak fluent dyslexia. He uses his staff to gesture to the forest behind him before disappearing between the trees. I can only assume he must be asking me to follow.
Did he even notice?
Bemelé's biting whisper doesn't continue beyond that, but it doesn't have to. Did the guide notice someone's missing? That they have been taken? Bemelé stalks off, clenching his fists. I can't blame him, but I don't share his anger. I still feel hollow. I follow after Bemelé, and Lou chooses to do the same. The guide takes us further inland, more towards the center. There's a view of the coastline from here, but we're also partially obscured by a few trees.
It's time to sleep.
No one has the energy to argue with him at this moment. I find a place as comfortable as one could ask for in a location like this, next to one of the trees further out, and lay down, trying to block out my thoughts. For once, exhaustion is my ally, and I slip off into the sleep. My eyes slowly blink open and readjust to the brightness, what little there is. The sun is obscured by a thick layer of fog, making it impossible to estimate the time of day. I prop up on my elbows and push myself up. The ground is hard and rocky, but that isn't the only reason that I'm eager to get on my feet. I check my surroundings. The harsh, craggy earth of the island is interlaced with twisting vines and gnarled branches. Beside me, Bemelé and Lou are still fast asleep. The guide, however, is nowhere to be seen. I realize that I don't recall seeing him lay down with everyone else. It's likely he left us hours ago. There's a creeping silence here. I can't help but shudder at the hollow, aching feeling inside of me. It refuses to relent. I shift my weight back and forth, unsure of what to do with myself. Memories of last night's harrowing journey flicker through my mind. Bemelé wakes suddenly, rising with alarm and startling Lou awake as well. My mouth opens and shuts, and after a moment of fumbling, a word finally escapes.
Hello.
That's how you should start every morning. Start every morning with a hello. How is everyone in chat at the moment? This is kind of the halfway point for the story when you get to the island. So we'll take a moment to have a wee catch up. How is everyone? Where are you from? What's your favorite food? All of the normal questions. I haven't eaten today. I went out earlier this morning and did a few street shows. For those of you new to the channel, I am a street theater performer. I'm a sword swallower and a sideshow performer as well. So when I go out to work, I don't eat anything before the shows because it can come out on the sword. And then after the show, I came straight home and started streaming. So I haven't actually eaten today, hence why I'm asking, what's your favorite food? Make me jealous with what you've eaten. And then we'll get back into the game in a moment, once I have a little sip of water and have a breath. It's amazing how much oxygen you lose while talking. Alright. Blah, blah, blah. Bah, alright, let's continue on. Beverley gives me a gentle smile and makes his way over to me. Behind him, Lou remains on the ground.
Morning.
A pocket of quiet descends over us. Bemelay sighs. The atmosphere is weighing on him already.
We should eat something soon.
See, that's what I was just talking about, Kika. You and me. On the same page. Good work. Fist bump. And I fist bump the camera because you don't have a fist.
I don't trust what is on this island, so I'll have to split my supplies with Lou.
That's a good point.
I
Island
still
might
have
be
a few
poisonous.
rations left. I'd be happy to contribute.
Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm not hungry.
It wasn't a question, Lou. You need to keep your strength up. Otherwise, you will be a detriment to everyone. Lou's back is turned against us. He still hasn't gotten up out of the dirt.
You should eat. You have to keep your energy up for the day ahead.
Bemelay speaks encouragingly, like he's coaxing a nervous horse. Lou buries his head deeper into his knees as he curls into a tighter ball.
No thanks.
Bemelay lets slip a small chuckle.
Well, it seems I've lost my role as the childish one around here.
Oh, burn! I look at Bemelay and smile weakly at him. However, he's now frowning hard. I understand. Lou does not know what he speaks of, and the only one who would isn't here. Hey, the guide's back. A distinct rustling of the leaves catches my attention. The guide appears, emerging from the thicket. Bemelay glares at him as he makes his way over. Lou doesn't seem to notice as he's still facing away.
The Nixie will not tread on land in daylight. However, being near the shoreline is still dangerous. If you leave the center of the island, remain cautious. Before the sun sets, I will be in this area. It would be wise to meet me here before nightfall.
Deal. Good plan.
Why didn't you stay with us last night?
I sharply turn towards Bemelay as he snarls and confronts the guide.
If you had just been there, none of this would have happened. She didn't have to die.
The guide stands unflinching and completely unaffected.
If all you're going to do is leave everyone to be lost, then why bother guiding us at all?
Despite Bemelay's severe words, the guard apparently considers his piece here finished. He turns towards the forested area from which he came. Bemelay calls out to the guide, reaching towards him. Before he can make contact, I quickly place a hand on his shoulder. He lowers his arm to his side, though I can still feel the wrath emanating from him. We stay this way until the guide disappears from view. Bemelay begins to kick at the ground, spraying tiny pieces of gravel all about.
Bemelay, I know you're angry, but regardless of our feelings, we need the guide. If he leaves us, we'll all die.
And we've done so well with him.
Sassy. I give him a cold glance. Won't even know which bridge to take without the guide. Bemelay knows that. This needs to stop. And there's people counting on us to make it back. And what of Lou?
We can't afford to lose our way.
The anger etched into his expression fades into sadness.
You're right, Kika. You're right.
He weakly swats his hand in front of his face as if trying to shoo away his racing thoughts.
I can't stay here right now.
I nod, allowing him to leave alone. Lou meekly calls to me. I turn around to face him, though I don't speak. He's standing some distance away. He fidgets and glances over to the side before returning his gaze to my eyes. He gestures for me to come closer. I comply. So last time when we were in this situation, we had a choice to either go with Bemelay, stay by ourselves, or go with the guide. Whereas this time it looks like we're just going with Lou. He begins to whisper at me, but he fumbles with his words and I can't make out anything he says. I look at him inquisitively. Finally, he speaks up enough to be clear.
I'm sorry for what happened last night.
You should be. You got Margaret killed with your shit. Actually, you didn't. You did absolutely nothing wrong, buddy. Don't feel bad. He speaks quickly as he looks up at me, his eyes filled with sorrow. He shifts his focus downwards.
You would have been better off without me.
True. But, meh.
It's not your fault.
My words come out hollow and empty. I mean what I say, but I can't find the energy to make it seem convincing.
It was closer to being my fault than anyone else's. I wasn't supposed to be here, and all I did was get in the way. The guide was right about me. I knew from the beginning that it would be like this too. I never should have stayed.
Finishing his thought, he sniffles and turns away. Suddenly, I feel a strong surge of emotions rip through me. Everything is falling apart and I don't have the power to change this. Quietly, I speak. Alright, so we got Lou, wait, I have to see a bell or I need to be alone. Well, at this point, we're kind of committed to Lou. So let's go with Lou. Hopefully, Bemele is okay by himself. Lou stops moving. He doesn't turn to face me. I hesitate as well, also unsure of how to proceed.
Would you be willing to speak with me?
He turns around to face me. His eyes are brimming with tears. He smiles slightly.
I could do that.
I find the will to smile lightly back at him. Lou walks closer to me and then pauses. After watching me for a moment, he turns his eyes to the ground, waiting for me to do something. I just stare at him, unsure. After a brief silence, I finally sigh.
Lou, can I ask you a difficult question?
He flinches.
I don't think I'm the person you want to ask difficult questions.
No one else can answer this one. It's about you.
Oh, in that case, I'm really not the kind of person to give good answers.
By his tone, it seems he's trying to make light of the situation, but to me, it just sounds sad.
I understand.
He squeezes his eyes shut and gives no reply. Despite being clearly frustrated, it doesn't really look like it's me that he's upset with. Soon he reopens his eyes, looking directly at me.
You can ask me anything. I'll try to answer. But I hope you have a lot of patience.
I'm not a doctor. I don't have any patience. He smiles slightly.
Thank you.
So, what do you want to know?
Have you lost someone in the lake?
Do you know the word, the bird is the word? Lou stumbles back a step from
I'm
shock.
sorry for prying, but when we found you, it seemed like you were apologizing to someone. And the way you've acted since makes me think that something is wrong. Something beyond even being out on Sinlos.
I give him a sympathetic look. Why am I even asking him this question? Do I really want to help him? Or am I just trying to forget what happened to us by talking about someone else's misfortunes? When Lou speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper.
I hate myself. I can't do anything.
You don't have to say anymore. I was wrong to ask you about it.
His brows are furrowed as he smiles in a self-depreciating way.
I'm sorry.
Lou laughs sharply at himself.
Don't be. I'm not worth the concern.
Again with this self-depreciating talk, man. What you doing? Get some self-confidence.
How can you say that? What have you done that was wrong in this moment? It was only my mistake.
You think that because you don't know?
I do not believe you.
Lou's eyes bore into me.
I'm not upset because I lost someone out here. I'm upset because I can't bring myself to lie about it.
What?
You gave me the perfect opportunity to cover up the pathetic truth of what actually happened. All I had to do was go along with your assumption. But when you're so direct, I can't keep my thoughts hidden. I'm too afraid of making a mistake and having the lie uncovered somehow.
So you traveled by yourself, or you purposely killed someone? He stares back at the ground and sighs.
Why do I have to be so terrible at this?
Bewilderment rings through my mind, one ear to the other. His words stir all sorts of emotions, baffling, jumbled emotions in me. At the battle for supremacy as I gawk, Lou is... I don't know. Without looking up, Lou shakes his head.
See? You shouldn't waste your sympathies on someone like me. You should have left me to die.
Like a shot, my anger flares up.
Pull yourself together. I didn't leave you behind before, and I'm not going to do so now. The best thing you can do to help is put those kinds of thoughts in the back of your mind.
Or what? I won't make it to the other side?
Lou laughs bitterly, his smile almost cruel.
If I thought joining you was a way to stay alive, I would have acted much differently. The only reason I came along is because I thought it might be nice to not die alone and forgotten.
Oh my god, this guy's gonna write like 90s kid goth poetry. My words sputter and die on my tongue. Lou continues his little speech, ignoring my reaction.
The guide really didn't know what he was saying before. I asked him if I could go out on the bridges in the past. He told me not to. Said I couldn't handle it. I'm not sorry for ignoring the warning. This was something I had to do. This was my only chance to prove I'm not worthless, or to finally accept that I was once and for all. And we know what the truth is.
The truth is, you are a butt.
Stop.
I can no longer keep idly listening to him speak.
It doesn't have to be this way. You said yourself that it isn't over until it's completely over. There's still a possibility that...
No, there isn't.
My blood pounds in my veins. Instinctively, I place both my hands on his tightly wrapped upper arms.
I don't know what has happened to you, but if there's something you need to do, you can try again tomorrow night. You don't need to give up. You have value.
Lou closes his eyes again and smiles to himself. I maintain my grip on him, waiting for his response.
All right. I'll try to stay alive if you'll do something for me.
What is it?
Don't put yourself in danger for my sake anymore.
My fingers curl harder around his thin arms, wishing I could argue further, but I don't know what's going on inside his head, and I might end up pushing him away. And I might push him back into giving up. I don't have the luxury of trying to reach him a second time. I release him and we take a step back.
Fine. I'll accept those terms.
Good. Now you might survive.
You need to survive too.
Everyone survives. Pudding for everyone. He laughs.
It goes without
Good.
saying.
It's a good joke. Lou smiles teasingly. His attitude is still difficult for me to grasp, but I attempt to smile in return. Thank you for caring about me, or say nothing. Thank you for
I know
caring
you
about
don't want
me, man.
anything to happen to
Cheers.
anyone else. That is admirable.
Lou says nothing. However, I do feel my words reached him. I wish he would let me help him, but I cannot find the way to do so. I can only trust that will do his best to take care of himself now. It's better than him planning to let it end. I sigh wearily and yet somehow feel as though my resolve has been strengthened. At least for now.
I'm going to head out. I want to see how everything is on the island.
I'll make it easier by coming along. Then you won't ever have to check on me.
Good plan, Lou. This time, I'm able to smile easily.
That would be good.
Happy to help.
He readily moves beside me, and together we move out. Lou and I head through the wooded part of the island. There isn't anything that could be called a path, but we manage to pick our way through the bush quite well. Through a thinner stand of trees, we briefly catch sight of the guide standing on one of the beaches. He seems fine, but even though I'm sure he turned his head towards me, he makes no show of acknowledging us. We move on, and eventually find Bemele in a jagged clearing leaning against a tree. He's already noticed us and is looking our way, smiling. As we get closer, I can pick up on the sadness behind his jovial expression.
How are you faring? Any problems?
Everything is fine. We came to check on you.
How kind. I've calmed down since then.
Yeah, Bemele has anger issues.
I'm glad to hear that. Is there any way I can help or anything you'd like to say?
He raises an eyebrow at that. His grin becomes markedly playful.
I didn't expect to see you so worried about me, Kika.
Of course she's worried about you. She loves you. She wants to have little Bemele babies. I have to force myself not to avert my eyes at that comment, embarrassment flowing into me, mostly flowing into my cheeks. Unexpectedly, Lou speaks up in a soft but penetrating voice.
I think she always cared. You just didn't notice.
Good work, Lou. She's got my back. He's got my back. Everyone has everyone's back. For just a moment, Bemele's mouth levels into a thin line, but in a blink, he's smirking again.
That could be. It makes sense.
He turns his beaming face towards me. I hesitantly return a smile, albeit a much smaller one than his. He's smiling like this. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice Lou is timidly smiling my way too. Bemele glances between Lou and I, noticing something between us. He doesn't mention it, however. Instead, he throws his arm out wide with a sour expression.
Have you seen the guide?
Bemele is clearly asking out of a sense of obligation, and makes no secret that he's not pleased to be discussing the guide. I nod in response.
I saw him earlier. He is the same as always.
A dick.
Good, good. In that case, I'm going to stretch my legs for a bit. I feel stiff from standing in one place for so long.
Lou and I both bid him a brief goodbye. Bemele waves as he departs.
It's good to know the others are well.
We have nothing to do with our time now. Even I can't ignore the wistful tone in my voice. Something is tugging at my heart, trying to tear a piece away. Lou seems uncomfortable with my lowering mood. He stares out into the woods rather than at me.
I think I'll go to the shore.
His words snap me back hard to hard
What?
reality.
Why?
I saw something earlier that I'd like to check out.
The shoreline is dangerous. Whatever you saw could not be worth the risk.
But what if it's a bag of Skittles? That's worth the risk. I love Skittles. Lou actually laughs. Wasn't that funny? A sudden sound that's as close to snickering as it is to spluttering.
Watching a Nyx drag itself across the shore in the middle of the day would be worth the danger, in my opinion.
It's a good point. I give him a humorless, reprimanding look. I feel vaguely like I have used this face to dissuade pets and young children from behaving poorly in the past.
I was only joking.
Thankfully, it seems to work on grown men as well. I hope he's telling the truth. For someone so nervous, he can be quite reckless.
I'm still going, though. Don't worry. I'll be careful. We talked about this.
He gives me a self-effacing, lopsided grin. Like a colon, capital D.
You said you didn't want to make me watch out for you.
I'll be back soon. You won't even notice.
We're gonna have to decide whether we go with him or let him go by himself. I sigh. Part of me wants to keep lecturing him on how serious this is. I just want him to be safe, but I fear I don't have the words to convey that without making the situation worse.
Fine.
Bemele and I will come.
Of course you both would come.
Everyone together. He's smiling, but I can see the truth in his eyes. He's disappointed. I don't want to leave Bemele alone again. Bemele's my bae, like, he's my boy. I'm going to keep it together. I've already left him alone once.
The shore is unsafe for anyone. It isn't because I do not trust you.
Thanks.
Lou does not look any better over the reassurance. He avoids eye contact while continuing to have something of a pout on his face. He is a kid. He's doing duck face. Perhaps the true issue is that I included Bemele rather than offering to go alone. I can appreciate how he feels, but we cannot afford to underestimate the risks of being on this island regardless. Still, his interest in me causes a secretive smile to play across my lips. Lou returns my unexpected smile wholeheartedly, if not a little self-consciously.
Let's find him then.
The smile fades. It confirms my suspicion. We head into the brush where we saw Bemele go and find him shortly later.
Hello again.
I wave amicably while Lou stands to my side a few steps further back than he should to be included in the conversation. He stares at nothing in particular and keeps readjusting his position.
Were you searching for me? Or am I in the way here?
We were looking for you, but it doesn't matter anymore. I changed my mind.
About what?
Nothing.
Bemele is confounded by the exchange, rubbing his calloused fingers against the side of his face. But he is gracious enough to let it go. I kind of want to know what was at the shoreline. Alright, this is what we do. We'll save at this point. And then we'll return, and we'll jump back, and we'll just say that I will go with him alone.
Nothing.
About
We were... Let's... Thanks.
The
Jump back to the choice, and I will come. Lou brightens.
Of course you can come. I'd enjoy that.
I get the feeling he was hoping I'd say that. It's not as though I don't want to be around him. Furthest thing from it. It's the activity itself that's the problem. Despite my reservations, we head to the beach. Lou strides easily across the sand, his bare feet sinking down in the loose grains as he stretches his arms contentedly.
It is so much nicer out here.
I make sure to stay close behind him just in case. I would not want him to go off by himself. Lou notices my position out the corner of his eye. He isn't so distracted that he's forgotten I'm here, it seems. He takes a wide step back so we're side by side instead. I can't help but be surprised by his assertiveness, and it makes me grin nervously.
You know what I mean, right?
Yes. The shore has its positives.
Like crabs. It has crabs. I find it hard to navigate the loose sand in my boots, but Lou has little trouble here. There are only a few ragged bandages wrapped around his bare feet. I have to wonder how he's been faring thus far. The forest floor is rock hard and full of thorns. I clandestinely check for any signs of bleeding. Thankfully, there's no traces of it. It also does not escape me that losing one's shoes is an uncommon occurrence. They must have been stolen, or he didn't have any to begin with. Between my swirling thoughts and Lou's quiet self-assurance, we have walked in silence for a bit. This should be a good chance to ask questions about his life, where he comes from, what does he do for work, if he has any other family. However, I can't help but assume he would shrink away from such attention. Lou catches my gaze and inclines his head, a whisper of a smirk on his lips.
Is there anything on your mind? Something you'd like to ask me, maybe?
Yes, where did you get that sweet bracelet? Or wrist guard?
Yes, I'm surprised you brought attention to it.
Lou snickers in a self-aware sort of way.
When you're as suspicious as I am, it's pretty easy to guess that people will have questions.
I smile faintly. His openness is certainly appreciated, but the look fades as quickly as it appeared, and I turn away.
I think I've asked you enough questions.
Lou's expression sinks into melancholy. He holds my eyes in his own, tightly locked and refusing to let go. Then he speaks, unbidden.
I've done odd jobs most of my life. The only title you could say I've had is messenger boy.
He hangs his head in embarrassment over his achievements and begins to drift further away.
That is nothing to be ashamed of. Information is meaningless if it is not with those who can use it. There are far less honorable ways of making a living in this world.
Like collecting poo.
I can think of some too. Some that I've done.
Have you collected poo? His words are mumbled, so it takes a moment for them to sink in. I'm not sure what to say, so I settle on closing some of the distance between us in an attempt to console him. Admittedly, I expected as much. His jitteriness and defensive posture are typical of a petty criminal. I imagine he's had a pretty tough life. The warmth between us melts the dark mood that was beginning to form. A teasingly crooked smile blooms across Lou's face as he relaxes again.
Thank you.
I didn't say anything.
That's what I'm grateful for.
At that, I'm able to chuckle and give a bent grin in return.
It is no trouble.
Lou turns his head away bashfully and lifts his hand, steadily inching it towards me. My pulse starts to race. He lets it drop before he touches me. It's a relief as well as a disappointment. No! We can't hook up with Lou. We're meant to be with Bemele. Once again, silence falls between us. Suddenly, Lou begins running forwards. There's nothing ahead of us. Completely caught off guard and left momentarily dumbfounded. I shout after him to come back, concern rising in my chest. He keeps up the pace but turns his head back to look at me, almost as if he's enjoying this. Ah, he found a spiky shell, seahorse thing. After a short sprint, he comes to a stop. As I reach him, he bends down and carefully picks up something off the sand. It's a strange, beautiful shell.
Isn't it amazing? I wonder if other lakes have shells like this.
Probably not. It's probably a human skeleton. I'm not able to stop myself from sighing.
I don't know. Is that what you were expecting to find?
It is. I like shells.
Mommy likes purple shells.
The world is so dreary. Any flowers that bloom will wither and die in days without attention. I can't find a way to appreciate such fleeting things. It's only sad.
As he speaks, his voice descends into despair, dropping so low I almost don't make out what he says. I cannot think why this shell is impacting him so profoundly, but I want to comfort him somehow, regardless of it. But I want to comfort him somehow, regardless of it, there we go. I want to comfort him somehow, regardless of if I can fully comprehend him.
Shells are beautiful and they can persevere. That is something I respect.
It is good you were able to find what you were searching for.
I think so too.
He lets himself remain lost in the moment for a second longer, then gently offers his meaningful shell to me.
Why don't you keep it? It can be a reminder of me.
I don't want your shell. I have no idea what to say. Those words don't seem so harmless, and yet foreboding. Despite my silence, he continues to hold the shell out for me to take. Cautiously, I reach up to accept the gift, afraid that a wrong move could somehow hurt the shell or even him. When I have it, Lou places both his hands over my hand and the shell.
Thank you for coming with me.
He continues to make it difficult to speak, so it takes some effort to hide the bashfulness in my voice.
It was no trouble, Lou. Really. Thank you for this. However, even if you didn't give it to me, I would not forget you.
He looks happier than I've ever seen him as he presses my hands more tightly.
I'm so glad I met you.
Likewise. I'm happy we crossed paths.
I hope that will never change. If you think of me from time to time, it would make this all worthwhile.
Makes it sound like he's about to die. I am glad, or say nothing. I am glad. Even if it is more of a, even if it is a more generous view of this, than I would give, I relish his statement. Lou is finally showing some optimism towards life. I am still unsure why Lou came here to begin with, but it eases my mind to think that he may not have to regret the choice. Lou pulls away, locking a door that I barely even got to peek inside.
We can head back to the forest now.
Right. That is for the best since we still need to rest before sundown. We will take the smoothest route back to the clearing.
Do I look so fragile?
I'm not impressed with his attempt at humor and look squarely at him as I speak, my voice completely deadpan.
Anyone would have trouble with no shoes.
I figured someone like you would say I needed to toughen up.
I shake my head fondly. His elusive way of speaking has grown on me some.
Come on, we should go.
Together we return to the woods. Hey, I got an achievement. Together we return to the woods. In what feels like no time, we enter the clearing. Pele arrives at almost the same time and greets us.
I heard you two coming and thought it best if I came to join you.
Lou and I greet him in kind, though Lou still seems some more reserved. The three of us quietly wait for the guide's arrival, occasionally chatting with one another as we rest. The sky turns orange as sunset comes upon us. As the color seems to drain from the world, being consumed by the fog, the guide makes his appearance. Lou avoids eye contact with him.
It's almost time.
I nod and feel myself grow tense. We truly are about to return to those damn bridges. All of us wait in an uncomfortable silence until nightfall. We silently stand as one, forming a vigil of sorts. Our remaining lanterns illuminate the dark, prepared for tonight's journey. And yet, the way forward does not appear. The bridges haven't risen from the depths. I glance to my side. The guide does not look at all pleased. The corner of his mouth gives a harsh bent as he briefly loses himself to heavy thoughts. Hey, Cody Plays. How you doing, man? Welcome. Seeing as you're new to the stream, the top 3 questions we always ask. How are you? Where are you from? And what's the last thing you ate? As a sword swallower that doesn't get to eat a lot during the day, especially on days like the weekend when I'm working, I'm a big fan of food. So what's the last thing you ate, man? And welcome, by the way. Welcome to Lake of Voices. It's a sweet little indie narrative-based game. I glance to my side. The guard does not look at all pleased. The corners of his mouth give a harsh bent as he briefly loses himself to heavy thoughts.
We must go to the shore.
He doesn't offer an explanation for why. Instead, he just walks off without us. I follow after the guide, my forehead creasing with swelling worry. Behind me, I hear Bemele and Lou's unsure footsteps. The four of us press onto the shore, the dark waters lap at the edge of the sand. And as expected, the maze is still hidden beneath the surface. Hot dogs! Friggin' hot dogs! I love hot dogs! I haven't had a decent hot dog in ages. I think the last time... Oh, you're from America. Sweet. The last time I had a decent hot dog might have been... Amsterdam earlier this year. Those hot dogs are good. Yeah, it was a hot dog right next to where I was working. So, generally when it comes to sunset in the game, we're meant to get our bridges back, but I have no idea why they're not doing it. The guide grips his staff tighter still, his knuckles turning ghostly white. He sucks in a breath of air, like he's about to speak, but hesitates. We all stare at him expectantly. After a moment more, the guide is fed up with waiting.
The bridges are late. If they don't arrive as soon as darkness falls, there's no telling exactly how long it will be before they do.
Bemele's face immediately sours, and he isn't able to stay silent about his feelings.
So we're going to waste our time standing idly by. There's hardly enough time to make the trip as it is.
What are you planning to do, Bemele? Swim? We can't go in the water, that's where the monsters live. If there's no bridges, we stay here. That's just how it is. Lou doesn't say anything, opting to stare at the ground with an obscured expression.
Time is by far the least of our worries. On the bridges we are constantly moving, which makes it easier to avoid the prowlers. However, this island does not offer that luxury. We're trapped here.
My body goes rigid as these words sink in.
More importantly, the bridges are raised above the waters. Nixie have difficulties pulling themselves up onto the bridges. The soft sloping of the shore will allow far more prowlers to drag themselves towards us.
So basically, we're screwed, is what you're trying to say,
Not
Mr.
all
Guide?
will be as dangerous as the ones we've encountered thus far. However, we could easily be overwhelmed.
Can they climb trees? A pit forms deep in my stomach. I stare at him aghast. I had no idea the situation was that dire. I glance from the waterline to the trees. What I'm looking for, I don't know. A sign of what might be to come, perhaps?
I wonder if those fires had anything to do with this.
We burnt the bridges in the last part. Maybe that's pissed them off. The bridges won't come back up because you lit them on fire. Bemele's words are biting as he wonders aloud. The guide answers Bemele firmly, wanting to put an end to this speculation.
No. Whatever magic controlling the bridges is inconsistent. Humans haven't found a way to impact it. We can only do temporary physical damage to the boards.
Okay, so the boards grow back. Bemele is still displeased.
Should we return to our original spot? We would have more protection there.
The guide closes his eyes and looks very worn down.
Staying in the center of the island is the safest option. However, there's the risk that we may not be able to reach the bridges when they do rise. Prowlers could have taken full control of the shore by then.
Alright, I think there's a decision coming up as to whether we stay on the shore or whether we go back to the center of the island where the safety is. So get ready just in case that jumps in. I will try and pause the game, give you guys a chance to have a little bit of input there.
Remaining here with our lanterns will ensure the prowlers cannot move freely.
My brows involuntarily knit together. I don't like the sound of taking additional risks in an area that's already so dangerous, but our options are thin.
I will not be kept on this island for another day, so the shore is where I will be. You may wait at the edge of the forest, or even at the center of the island if you fear being attacked. If the prowlers come between us and you fail to make it to the bridges, I will leave you behind.
'Cause you're a dick. Bemele spits hatefully under his breath.
Of course you would.
True. Generosity is not something I've come to expect from our guide. But that is not the conversation we need to have at the moment. The guide has made his decision, and we must make ours.
If you were staying by the shore, perhaps I could be positioned somewhat further back from you. And then the others could stay further back still. That would keep us safer, without having any major gaps of darkness between us and the shore. You could start a fire, seeing as neither of you have a lantern.
Good suggestion, Kika.
Fine.
Settled on the matter, the three of us begin to move away from the guide. He pays little attention to us, instead silently fixing his eyes onto the water. I take my place in the middle of the shore, while Bemele and Lou hover closer to the island's core on the line between the dirt and sand. After getting a sense of where they are, I turn my gaze ahead. At first, I think I'm being fooled by the fog. There are several white dots playing along the edges of the water. Dark globes begin to surface, and I see them for what they are. Eyes. So many white, dribbling eyes gleaming sharply against their pitch-black bodies as the Nixie bob up and down. They surface and disappear in a loop. Each time, more sets of eyes and closer, surveying us more intently. Then they cackle. The sound is atrocious, gurgling, then turning high-pitched as they seem to take the full stock of us. The lights in their eyes somehow seem brighter as the first of the Nixie dig their claws into the sand, begin dragging themselves upon the shore. I plant my feet even firmer. With the threat rising, I decide to take one last moment to check on the others. Bemele is tending to a small flame. However, I don't see Lou with him. Immediately alarmed, I raise my voice to call for him.
Lou? I'm okay.
A bit of rustling comes from above. I'm at a loss over what's happening before I realize that Lou is speaking from up a tree. I asked before, do they climb trees? Apparently not. Before I can ask what Lou is doing, he continues.
I figured there's not much of a chance any Nixie will get a hold of me here. They won't climb.
His voice is lighthearted with an easy overconfidence. With an easy confidence. I'm adding the overconfidence, because you don't know they can't climb. With a slight shake of the head, Bemele chuckles at Lou.
Let's see if you'll get down from there as smoothly as you climbed up.
Don't worry about me.
He still sounds fully self-assured. I smile to myself. I like to believe that Lou truly will be safe from those predatory creatures this way. With the two of them doing well as they can be, I cautiously back up to my original position. I return my full focus to the shore. As we feared, this is becoming a pressing situation. More prowlers rise from the waters while my attention was on the other two. They've surrounded the guide on both sides. The only way to gain distance from them would be to delve further into the island, yet the guide shows no sign of giving up his position. He remains where he is, resolving to keep all the monsters near him in his sight. I grow more unnerved the longer I watch this. The guide seems impervious to the dangers of Sinlos. This is the first case where I can't tell whether he will continue to be fine as always or not. But this is the first case where I can't tell whether he will continue to be fine as always or not. It's a distressing notion. As they creep ever closer, I can't stay silent any longer.
Your safety is most important. Consider retreating.
He doesn't face me, but still replies.
I cannot do that. Nixie recognize signs of weakness. Backing away will only increase the odds of them attacking.
Well then whack him with your stick. That'll show your lack of weakness. Hit him with your stick. Give him the old 1-2 whack whack. I grip my lantern tighter as I swallow hard. What can I do? As if in answer to my own question, a thought whispers into my mind and I look down at the lantern in my hand. I could throw it. As long as I don't let it go too far down the shore, it doesn't seem plausible that a Nix could take it. But if I do, if I do lose the lantern, then... Page up! Alrighty chat, are we throwing the lantern or are we just letting this play out? I'm going to give you guys a bit of a moment. The choice is throw the lantern or let it play out. I have no idea where I'm tapping anymore. Alright, that's our choice. Throw the lantern or let it play out. I'm going to quickly go and refill my coffee cup and refill my water because it's been a very hot day here in Adelaide and I've been working. And when I get back, we will decide throw the lantern or let it play out. The choice is down to you guys. So I'll be back in a moment, guys. Auf Wiedersehen. See you in a second. Alrighty, we are back. I have a full bottle of water. What's the chat saying? Cody says, let it play out. The guide seems to know what he's doing. Yeah, I tend to agree. In our earlier playthrough where we didn't save Lou and we didn't save Margaret, it was just me and Bemele and the guide. There was a few times where every time we went against what the guide was saying is when we died. Like the guide, you're right, the guide knows what he's doing. He says, let it play out. Sweet, let it play out. I can't act rashly here. The guide has managed through every situation we've been through, as well as countless others we didn't bear witness to. I resolve to continue with what we've planned and keep my position. Without flinching, the guide keeps hold of our position on the waterline. I periodically switch between watching him, the others, and the rest of the shore. As I scan the forest, there's a stinging groan. What was that? The guide? It can't be. I stand rigid in shock. A painful prickling sensation goes down my back before whipping around to face the truth. He's crouched low on the ground, staring forcefully at a group of Nixie, head on. There's a whole other group of monsters rapidly clawing back into the water.
Hey!
I step forward with a shout, but he puts out one hand to halt me and I go no further. I and those creatures motionlessly watch for what he'll do. His fingers curl tight around the upper half of his staff. With great effort, he begins to rise to his unstable feet. The moment he is fully upright, the guide aggressively swings his lantern at the approaching Nixie. He catches them completely off guard and they scatter to rejoin the black depths. The guide crumples back into the sand unceremoniously and I can hear his ragged breaths as he regains his composure. That's what I told him to do. Swing your thing around, man. Give him the old one too. He tugs at one side of his cloak, bringing it closer around himself. It covers up a dark, growing stain creeping through his right pant leg. Even while collapsed, he seems compelled to hide his fragility. Crap! That's not good. Our guide is injured. Is that admirable or saddening? I don't know anymore. The guide roughly pulls himself back onto his feet and forces himself to remain standing. The rest of us must remain strong as well if we're to survive the night. Gripping my lantern, I watch over everything and everyone in sight vigilantly. After an untold period of time, the water begins to stir. There's an unusual gurgling, a sound I never thought I would be this relieved to hear. Slowly, creakily, the bridges make their nightly appearance. Sinlos is an overwhelmingly cruel environment. This island that had felt like a safe haven such a short time ago, now that has been twisted to the point where I'm grateful for a chance to return to the maze. And we may not even reach that. The more Nixie are breaching the water and wrenching themselves onto the sand. The guide signals to all of us.
We have to leave!
Thanks to his position on the shore, the guide is able to board the bridges without confrontation. For the rest of us, however, the Nixie begin to crowd the opening. It appears that they want to get on themselves. We have desperately little time before we'll be cut off from the guide. Go away, notification. I look to my lantern. Will this light alone be enough to cause them to disperse? Bemele appears at my side, dragging Lou's arm in one hand and his sword in the other. Lou yanks himself free of Bemele's grasp. It doesn't seem very happy at this treatment.
Being taken into the water is the biggest threat with these creatures. While we're on the shore, we can keep enough distance to avoid it. I can help push them back.
I appreciate his confidence, but I'm still not certain his help will be worth the risk. 2 is more intimidating than just 1, and there are many prowlers lurking. However, physical wounds don't hurt them in the way that they do people. I can still use my lantern alone. That has been the one weapon we've wielded against them thus far. My mind goes over every point I can think of in a loop, but there isn't that kind of time to spare. I have to give an answer. Only the light, let's fight. Only the light. We've been told from the start that the sword is ineffectual, and I feel like it's just gonna, if anything, I feel like it's gonna piss them off more than anything. Bemele frowns hard at me. He looks at me, seeming like he desperately wants to disagree. Lou appears doubtful. I'm quickly going to do one thing. I'm going to jump back before this, and we're going to save, so that if I screwed this up, we can jump back to this choice. So we're still going with the I only need the light. I shake my head at them.
There's too much risk for you to come with me. I'm going now.
I turn on my heels towards the Nixie. There's even more of them now. They drag themselves pitifully along the ground, reaching out their hands in our direction, like beggars. Unfortunately, nothing can be done to help these creatures. As I approach, they curl their bodies away from the light of my lantern. None of them move to retreat, however. Eyeing them warily, I quickly jump forwards in the hope of startling them. A few hiss and flail, pulling themselves into the water. One responds a different way. It returns the aggression by lashing out and knocks my light free. Well, good work. You done screwed up, Aaron. The lantern falls to the ground and blinks out. I gasp. Before I can turn around, one of them pounces on my back, forcing me to the sand as well. I frantically call out to the others.
Run! Get to the bridges!
Many more pile on. I dig my fingers into the loose granules. It puts up no resistance as they begin to drag me closer to the shore. There is shouting, but I'm not able to make out what the words are. As I feel the thick water begin to lap against my legs, I know in my soul that I'm never going to escape. This is the end. Cool. So that's another ending. So we'll jump back in a second. There we go. Load. Last time. So we'll see what happens if we get the sword in. Yep, that's fine.
If you're going to fight, then I am as well. I will attach the lantern to my belt for now.
Why don't you give it to Lou? You guys have swords. Lou has the lantern. It'll work well. Bemele grins and grips his sword firmly.
I'm ready for it.
Lou, stay behind. This needs to be done by us alone.
He doesn't verbally reply, however the severity of our situation isn't lost on him. He falls back and waits for our signal. I latch the lantern to my leather belt and unsheath my sword. We approach the battle as the two of us have done in the past. The skin of the monsters fold against their bone as they shrink back from my light. Bemele takes a wide swing at one nearby, which forces it back even further. I follow in suit, striking at the beasts near to me. Each arc of our swords opens up the way a little more. I listen closely and feel confident that Lou hasn't drifted. I pray my instincts are right. It's far too dangerous to look away, even momentarily, with so many Nixies so close. Our efforts bear fruit as the path to the bridges clears in front of my eyes. We waste not one moment sprinting towards the bridges. Did Lou make it with us? I hope so. I hope so. With the others near my side, I amble back into the maze. We don't stop until there is a considerable distance between us and the shore. It's there that we encountered the guide. Upon seeing his figure, I hide a sigh of relief. We haven't been left behind. Our arrival does not change the guide's empty expression. He doesn't say or do anything, instead allowing all of us to catch our breath. Bemele starts to laugh incredulously through uneven breaths.
Such recklessness. I can hardly believe it worked.
Lou looks as though his leg might fall out from underneath him.
Normally, I wouldn't ever say anyone on these bridges are lucky. But we are.
Yeah, kind of trapped between hell and a hard space, aren't you? We treasure the moment of triumph for a little more before the guide ends our silence.
We need to start walking. We've already lost much time as it is.
That is true. Almost as soon as he finishes his statement, he stumbles, nearly falling back down. His hands slip down the shaft of his staff as he sinks to the ground. He gasps under his breath.
Are you all right? Is there anything we can do? I don't have much, but I could still clean and wrap it.
Take a few hurried steps closer. I reach my hands out towards him, but he curls away from me like a barn cat. He turns his gaze up to me and shakes his head.
I tended to it myself when you were still on the shore.
Bullshit. Moments tick by as I stare at him, growing ever more nervous. As horrible as his injury is, the larger situation at play is dire for all. It is a weight bearing down on each of us, threatening to bring the entire group to its knees rather than only our lead. We can't stay here.
Are you able to walk?
Are you able to dance? Will you ever do the cha-cha again? He eyes his feet through gritted teeth and clenches his staff tighter.
Not like this.
A beat of quiet passes before he continues, his voice slightly ragged.
I have a way. It will be enough to get to the other side.
Shaking, he removes a hand from his staff and reaches into his cloak, searching for something. I have little other choice but to watch as he searches in his pockets. He pulls out a small glowing device and clicks on a small tablet labeled Uber. He orders an Uber and tells us that it will be here within 20 seconds and we need to meet the driver down the left bridge. The panic that we thought has passed starts to creep back in. He retrieves a small vial with a viscous liquid inside, swishing it slightly as he holds it up. I peer at it cautiously. Curiously. Well, probably cautiously and curiously, to be honest. Is it unicorn blood? Blessed to give it whoever an eternal life, but a half-life in the process?
Drinking this will numb the pain. I'll be able to ignore that my leg is injured for the time being.
I analyze the vial hesitantly. I'm pensive as I mull over the possible other effects it could have. Something that potent would be a miracle drug if there were no downsides along with the positives.
Is that safe? It must cause drowsiness or have some kind of impact on you. Not to mention, pushing your leg so hard when it's in that state could permanently ruin it.
He regards me as his lip twists part way into
My
a
leg isn't
star.
broken. It will heal without issue once I'm able to treat it. In order for that to happen, however, I need to live.
It's unicorn piss. Yeah, unicorn blood. It's too hard to get, man. As soon as you try and poke the unicorn with the syringe, it stabs you with its little horn. Unicorn piss, very easy. You just hide lots of baskets in among the flowers of the magical meadow. Not baskets, buckets. In among the flowers of the magical meadow. And then just, like, give them lots of cherry cola. Lots of Diet Coke. Lots of caffeinated beverages. And eventually they pee. It's a good market. We should look into this, Cody. You and me will go into business with unicorn peas. I flinch slightly. He wouldn't usually snap at such a question. The pain must be truly getting to him.
What about side effects? You didn't say what they were.
Bemele steps in closer to the guide, his question harsh enough to be a demand. Bemele's trust in the guide has steadily declined since our first night. With the way he's acting, I cannot ignore the sense that it may come to a head before our journey's over. The guide levels a deeply unimpressed look at Bemele. He then sighs. Raising the bottle up so it's more visible, he swishes it around almost impatiently.
It can slow reflexes and cloud the mind.
Immediately, Bemele's eyes widen incredulously. Lou gazes on with an empty expression on his face. The guide heaves another sigh, though the pain in it makes it sound more akin to a groan. He is still impatient with the group's delay as time marches on.
I will only be taking half a dose. It won't ease all of the pain. However, it will reduce the odds that I will be notably impacted by any adverse effects.
I know how you feel about others coming close to you, but is that truly the best solution to a situation like this? You need to be clear-headed here.
Well, do we want him to be clear-headed, but be really slow? We've already lost so much time. Or do we want him to maybe be a little bit fuzzy? I wouldn't ask Harry. I'd more likely ask Newt. He seems to know a little bit more about the wild creatures. Do we want him to be clear-headed, but not be able to walk very quickly and we lose time because he's our guide? Or do we want him to be able to move quicker, but possibly, and it is only possibly, make a mistake and go down the wrong way or lose reflexes? Bemele takes another heavy step forward. He meets the guy's eyes stonily.
No, you can't drink something like that. I'll carry you.
It'll make us even slower. Bemele presses forward, encroaching on the guide's personal space. The guide visibly shrinks back again. However, he can't hobble much further away due to his injured leg.
That won't.
Before the guide can put forth another word, Bemele brazenly snatches the bottle straight from his hand. Everyone is stunned to silence by Bemele's action. Even the guide has trouble expressing any sort of emotion beyond furious disbelief. Bemele ignores all of our reactions and smiles triumphantly, holding the bottle like a trophy.
You have made it very clear that at the first inconvenience, you would leave us all for dead in the water. As you are now, that is impossible.
The guide narrows his eyes at Bemele, who only gives him a taunting grin.
So, this isn't about any possible adverse effects. You want to leave me injured and immobile on purpose.
Bemele shrugs, then returns to smirking almost cockily.
If there were no side effects, I likely would have thought nothing of it. However, mentioning those risks triggered something in my mind. You've never done what's best for the group. You only choose the safe option for yourself.
Exactly, Cody. You can't get speed back or time back. So I think we'd be better off, if it comes down to a choice, I think we'd be better off letting him have it and having him move quicker. Because he's not going to be able to, even if it's only slightly, even if he drinks half of it, it's only slightly numbed. He's not going to be able to run away from us any quicker than he would have when he had tons of legs. Not tons of legs. That'd be even cooler. He messes up the potion, all of a sudden grows more legs. He becomes a centaur. He's not exactly going to be able to run away from us any quicker. I think if it comes down to it, I'll probably let him drink it.
With that in mind, I can't exactly trust you when you tell us that the medicine is truly our one option. Now, even if carrying you means that you will be more at risk than otherwise, I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Nah, I don't agree with you, Bemele. I know where you're coming from, but nah. Bemele chuckles derisively and rolls his eyes while spinning the medicine vial between his fingers.
I hope you're proud that I'm following your advised method of not considering others, guide.
Despite Bemele's sarcastic jab, the guide returns to his usual empty, deadpan expression and makes no attempt at rebuttal.
There, he accepts it. What of you?
Alright. This is our choice time. Give him the vial, don't give him the vial, let Bemele... We'll see what the options are, and then I'll jump back so we can discuss it. Bemele then turns to look at us curiously. Maybe we don't get a choice. Lou has looked away from the situation. I notice, however, that he's trying to hide a smirk growing on his lips. Bemele seems rather pleased by the reactions thus far, grinning widely at us.
If anyone is worried about my ability to carry the guide for the rest of the night, you shouldn't be. Rest assured, a willowy man like the guide won't slow me down whatsoever.
I don't know. He puffs his chest out proudly, the overconfidence bursting the buttons on his vest. Lou places his face into his hands, refusing to look Bemele's way. Through his fingers, a glimpse of grin still remains. I don't like that. Bemele faces me expectantly. The guide also levels a steely gaze in my direction. We may be having a bit of fun getting the upper hand on the guide for a change, but if we don't go back now, we never will. Though, do we truly need to? All that matters is reaching the shore safely. That really is what really is for the best in this situation. Let the guide have his medicine, or let Bemele carry the guide. What do you reckon, team? I'm thinking let the guide have his medicine. Because we want the guide on our side. I wouldn't want to carry someone who's pissed off with me. Who knows if this guy could have a knife. You can just stab Bemele in the head. Or the butt. What do we reckon? Let him have his medicine or play it out? I understand that with the delay on the stream, yeah, I'd say let him have it. With the delay on the stream, it's going to take a little while before the game continues on, but let him have his medicine. His expression immediately falls when I say this. He stares down at the bottle in his hands dejectedly. I sigh. I don't enjoy dashing his hope of not being completely at the mercy of the guide. He dies. We can replace him and eat him. We're the zombies now? I don't enjoy dashing his hope of not being completely at the mercy of the guide. However, this reckless behavior is more likely to get us all killed. He cannot carry a man for this entire journey.
I'm aware that you have good intentions, but having a mutiny on our guide is going too far. Considering the state he is in, it's possible that his mind is clouded already because of the pain. What if he is no longer able to keep his eyes open after a while? If the guide cannot take care of himself, then he won't be of assistance to anyone.
Yeah, our major concern needs to be getting across this bridge. Bemelai scans me, and I can tell that he still has reservations over my argument. That's the plot twist, we're the zombies. Yeah, good one. I can't blame him. The guide will not give up on his own life over some pain, yet I stand by my reasoning and look at him firmly. Bemelai looks at me and then back down at the bottle. The others start to grow nervous over our battle of wills.
Hand back the medicine. The guide won't leave us behind as long as we follow diplomatically. We all must cooperate.
We focus our sights back on the guide, realizing he's become the center of attention. He haltingly gives us a nod. Bemelai clicks his tongue. How much time have we wasted just standing here talking about this? Bemelai clicks his tongue a few times before doing as I asked and handing the vial back to its owner. He feebly accepts the glass and uncaps it, downing half the vial without wasting any more time. I feel confident that the guide will continue to show us the way. However, Bemelai starts to grow frustrated when the guide does not immediately speak, pressing his heel into the wooden board below in anticipation. The guide softly rests his forehead against the side of his staff. His eyes droop slightly as he relaxes his muscles briefly. He waits patiently for the medicine to kick in, forcing the rest of us to do the same. After a brief pocket of time, the guide's labored breathing steadies, and he slowly pulls himself back up onto his feet, with using his staff as leverage. Despite stumbling slightly and trying to get up, the spike in energy he received from the medicine is noticeable. That unicorn piss is powerful stuff.
We must continue now.
He doesn't waste the strength communing with us further. Instead, he turns his back towards our small group, and with that brief statement finished, he starts down the bridge. I can still see him limping. I cannot deny that it's worrying. He's already taken half the medicine. Would taking enough to properly walk be so much of a risk? I begin to follow after the guide, and the two with me follow behind, making sure to stay within the safe harbor of my light. Once I'm near him, I notice that he isn't becoming more stable in gait. I ponder over whether I should mention my thoughts to him or not. I'm going to go full dose, but I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to jump back before it and save. Just in case. Just in case this goes to shit. Then we can jump back and not say anything. Full dose. The guide stops in front of us. The view is obscured from my vantage point, but I realize that he puts a hand in his pocket and pulls out the vial. He brings it to his lips and swallows the rest of what's inside. Then he calmly tucks the empty bottle inside his cloak. Without another word, he continues on his path. It is unusual for him to take suggestions so easily. The pain truly must have been a hindrance. Or he's really addicted to the medicine and took me saying he's allowed to have it as gospel. We continue our journey in silence. I watch the guide from behind and notice that slowly but surely his steps are improving. His limp becomes less and less noticeable. I feel a small wave of relief wash over me. Our group moves at a much brisker pace than the previous night. The guide is Nagini. Our group moves at a much brisker pace than the previous night. After the exchange that just took place, the mood has sunk low into a murky pool. Not a word is exchanged between us. The only sound that accompany us are the whispers of the demons in the lake and the pounding of our feet hitting the wood. After some time, we encounter a strange bridge. The oddity is noticeable immediately. The boards bend inward and become far narrower than any other of the bridges we've come across. The guide marches forward with no hesitation while the rest of us awkwardly halt in front of the unknown path. He smoothly glides across the bridge in the center until his effortless walk brings him to where the boards widen again. Now it's our turn. With only a small lantern shared between us, we have to be mindful of how to cross without leaving anyone in darkness.
I will stay in the middle. One of you will lead while the other goes behind.
I ponder over what position to take. The person in front could potentially stall the others or bump into us. So it seems important to send someone capable of crossing without stopping. Yet it may also be better to send someone who is possibly... Words come at me. Yet it may also be better to send someone who could possibly be left behind first to ensure that that doesn't happen. I look over at my two companions who also seem pensive over this decision. None of us want to make the wrong choice. I hope dearly to myself that we are exaggerating how dangerous crossing this thin bridge will be.
I can take the front. It won't be any trouble.
That is true, but I really do not want to leave Lou behind. This is the Lou Survives playthrough. We want to get Lou to the other end. In an effort to break the stalemate, Bemele offers to go in front. Lou nods gingerly, seeming relieved that someone else made the decision. With the order decided, I don't get to choose apparently, the three of us carefully start to make our way across. First, Bemele steps into the narrow bridge. A few seconds later, I follow after him, and after a pause behind me, Lou also starts to cross. As we inch our way across, something strange starts to happen. I notice the bridge start to bend down to the right. I suddenly realize that the weight of all of us is stressing the support beams. The others have noticed as well, as sound of alarm resound from both in front and behind me. I speak in a hushed whisper, trying to remain calm.
We need to focus on keeping ourselves centered. We can't let the bridge tilt.
I think over our predicament. I can't leave Lou behind. There's nowhere for him to go with no other source of light nearby. Bemele could try going out by himself while we keep still. We aren't close enough to the guide for Bemele to remain in light completely. However, with only him moving, hopefully the bridge will remain stable enough for him to cross it quickly. With him safe on the other side, we'll have a much easier time keeping the bridge from bending again. I can't be sure it's worth the risk though. These concerns may be a knee-jerk overreaction to seeing a sign of danger. If all of us go slowly, it's possible we could still cross together. Alright. Going with Bemele. I hastily share my thoughts on the matter with the other two. Bemele listens to me intently. A look comes over his face and it's clear that he's not fond of the idea of leaving us behind. I shake my head and urge him to go.
Having one less person on this bridge will be beneficial for everyone, Bemele.
Please tell me we didn't just lose Bemele. Lou keeps quiet, a silent agreement towards the plan. He sighs and nods. Bemele sucks in a breath and carefully starts to walk down the bridge. It mostly stays in one place. The bridge slightly creaks from side to side. Luckily, it's not an extreme enough tilt to unbalance everyone. Bemele successfully reached the edge of my light. For a moment, he stares down at the path of darkness. He then moves quickly without hesitation. He makes it closer and closer to the other side when suddenly a twisted backwards arm, glossy with blackened water, bursts from the side and latches onto Bemele's leg. A scream pierces the air as Bemele frantically tries to separate himself from the Nyx. It simply digs its claws in deeper into his leg, which causes him to shriek even louder. I stare on in abject horror as the scene unfolds before us. The bridge shifts and begins to bend from the strain again. There is little Bemele can do to resist. He rolls off the bridge and into the water.
Bemele!
I shout despairingly, but my voice can't help. He fights to keep his arm out, refusing to go completely under. Soon, even that is pulled down. Bemele never resurfaces. That's not so much as a bubble coming up from the lake. So we just lost Bemele. We saved before that choice, so I'm going to continue on without Bemele. If we get to the end of this storyline, I'll jump back and we'll play through trying to keep Bemele alive as well. But for right now, we're going to continue through. The bridge slowly creaks back into place, sloshing as it settles into its original position, all as if nothing happened. An eerie stillness overtakes the area as I stare, mouth trembling at the place my companion was lost. At least this frees us up to be with Lou without any guilt. I'm overwhelmed with feelings. My eyes fill to the brim with tears. Why? Why did this have to happen? Before I have any time to grieve, the guide's voice rings out on the wind from across the bridge.
You cannot stay there. You must keep going.
I count my breaths in an attempt to keep calm. 1, 2. It's how many breaths I have. As long as I stand here, Lou can't move.
I'm going to start walking again.
I will too.
Lou speaks very softly. Now with only 2 sets of feet instead of 3, it's not a difficult journey to make. The mere idea of one of us being missing pains me to my core. Eventually, we make it to the other side of the narrow bridge, and the remaining 3 of us stand together quietly as we process what happened. I place my free hand over my face to cover my eyes as I begin to weep. Not all of us made it. No matter how many times I stated in my head, I will never be able to make myself accept it. We were all here just a moment ago, and yet now, how could this have happened?
Forget what you saw. As of right now, nothing matters except for the fact that we have yet to reach the shore. Morning will arrive soon. We must continue.
I can understand the words. I need to keep myself together until I reach the shore. And yet, it seems impossible to actually do so. Everyone is being lost, one by one. I can't take it. Lou gently places a hand on my back and whispers to me quietly.
It's okay.
The guide taps the base of the staff onto the boards, not allowing me to become lost in my sorrow. Lou shuffles towards the guide, but he doesn't make it very far before he runs out of light from my lantern to remain in. Lou comes back, taking my hand, cradling it in his own, and starts walking. I manage to make myself take a step forward. My stomach twists as we simply have to move past the death of another person for the second time. It's so cruel. So the second person we lost. We lost Margaret in the first part before the island. Bemele was a wonderful guard and a wonderful person. He was striving towards so much, but it was all lost in a moment. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. After hours of navigating the web of bridges, the faint silhouette of the shore creeps into view. It seems unbelievable that the end is in sight. Even that wisp of hope does little to ease the ache inside me. I still feel hollow inside. Those of us remaining continue in the direction of the shore, and the darkness around us begins to break. A seed of worry sprouts inside of me. Will we make it? The guide ahead seems to have no sign of concern on his face. He is calmer now than I've ever seen him. I held on to the hope that we'll be able to make it through. The sky above becomes tinged with red as we head down a long stretch of boards. We walk further and further into the mist before what comes into view halts my steps. A dead end. I gasp at the sight. It's sunk. Why? Why did this bridge have to fail now? The shore is there. I can see it right in front of my eyes. Lou's mouth hangs open, completely dumbfounded over the sight.
Is there any other path?
I ask urgently, making an effort to keep myself from sounding too panicked. The guy doesn't respond, or even turn to face me. He just keeps staring ahead at the end of the pathway. Is this because I let him have the rest of the medicine? And he got lost and went the wrong way?
Guide? Our way has been taken from us. We need to find another bridge before the sun rises. Listen to me.
Finally, the guide stirs from my harsh calls. He speaks in a distant sort of way, as if he were in a trance.
This bridge didn't sink. It was never the path to the shore. And yet here we are.
What?
Yeah, he got lost.
I took the wrong way. We can't reach the shore. I wonder, how much of this was a mistake?
Lou stands still with an icy expression. This cannot be happening. It can't. He took us the wrong way. And he did it intentionally? The medicine, it robbed him of logic. Or perhaps it was his will that was lost. If he had taken less, would this not have happened? Or was it over as soon as I left him to the Nixie while on the shore? My mind begins to race with a million other questions, but I snap myself out of it. There is only one pressing matter to attend to at this moment in time. I forcefully grab the guide by the shoulder and make him turn towards us.
You need to show us the correct bridge or else we're going to die.
He brushes my hand off him, dropping his staff to his side in the process. I grabbed his wrist and tried to pull him forwards. He remained solidly planted on the bridge, with more strength than I anticipated given his hazy state. He's half snake? Could be. I tighten my grip, intending to make him move this time. However, he speaks before I can.
I have done all that I can. Do what you will.
My hands slip from the guide at those words. I look at him, utterly baffled. We did not understand him. Not in any way. I feel backed into a corner as the sun rises higher. Someone touches my forearm. Lou is looking at me with a severe expression on his face.
We need to leave, now. The guide, he isn't going to the shore this time.
Is Lou actually suggesting we leave the guide behind to die? The bridge begins to violently quake below us. Lou pulls at my arm, urging me to follow him. I swallow hard. This is foolish. There isn't enough time for any of us to make it. He's aware of that. I quickly grab Lou's hand. We start to run across the boards. Not too much progress is made before the shaking morphs into an urgent shuddering and sinking. Despite the bridge starting to disappear below, we keep running until there's no more bridge left to cross. I try desperately to tread water, but my armor weighs me down in this dense fluid. What? Sorry. 1 second. I'm choking. I'm dying. Excuse me. I'm choking on my own disbelief. Is everyone dead? I don't sink as much as plummet down into the lake. The painful fighting burning in my lungs takes a few minutes to subside. And then I slip into unfeeling nothingness. Alright, that's another ending done. So let's jump back to... where was it? We're jumping back to... is it here? Yeah, jumping back to here and trying to keep Bemele with us this time. See if that helps. Say nothing.
Should we keep going?
Lou darts his eyes around the lake nervously.
Yes, we need to move forward. If someone notices the bridge bending at all, they need to slow and tell the rest of us.
Both of them nod, so we begin inching our way forward. I focus my thoughts on putting one foot in front of the other, keeping my balance in check as I try to remain centered. Despite our best efforts, however, the bridge begins to tilt sideways once more. We can't stay in sync with one another, causing the front bridge to bend down to the left while the back twists to the right.
Stop! We need to rebalance.
All of us moving our positions at once only further contorts the bridge. It begins to rock dangerously back and forth. I start to struggle to remain on my feet, let alone be perfectly centered. It isn't me alone. A lot of us struggle to keep from toppling over as the bridge waves from side to side. I hear a gasp behind me. I turn my head to see that Lou is slipping. He stumbles clumsily, tripping over his feet and getting dangerously close to the edge. I reach a hand out to him, as futile as it is. He's already lost his balance and topples over the side of the bridge completely, falling into the water below. He doesn't call out for us or for anything. Seriously? This bullshit. I'm gonna go back and not give that guy the medicine.
Lou!
I shout desperately, but my voice can't help. He vanishes from sight into the depths. Lou never resurfaces. There's not so much as a bubble coming up from the lake. The bridge slowly creaks back into place, sloshing as it settles to its original position, as if nothing at all had happened. An eerie stillness overtakes the area as I stare, mouth trembling, at the place my companion was lost. So it just plays out now much the same as it did. Why? Why did this have to happen? Before I have any time to greed, the guide's voice rings out on a wind from across the bridge.
You cannot stay there. You must keep going.
Alright, so we're going to skip forward. So I think this is going to play out much the same. And hopefully it skips to... options. Transition, after choices, unseen text. Yeah, transitions. Unseen text. Yeah. So we're going to try skipping forwards till new stuff happens. Alright, apparently it plays out exactly the same. Alright. Jump back in. So now what? Jump back until he doesn't take the medicine? Is that what we're doing? Alright, we're going to jump back quite a way. So we're not going to let him take the... There we go. Alright, so we're going to try just leaving him at half dose. I think we still might lose... Yeah, I think we still might lose... I bite my tongue and let the thought go. Now is not the time to be making even more of a fuss. The guide knows how to manage these types of situations. Creating another discussion will waste more of our time and accomplish nothing. It's already been settled, and I need to keep it that way. Our guide moves at a much brisker pace than the previous night. After the exchange that just took place, the mood has sunk low into a murky pool. No, not a word is exchanged between us. What happens if I turn all of these off? Does that then skip to what I want? Yes. He calmly walks to the center of the boards. Halfway there, he begins to wobble. I suck in a breath as I can only watch. So this time, he is not as sure-footed as he was last time going over that narrow bit, because we didn't let him have the medication. Oh, great. I've gone and got an accent again. We didn't let him take the medication, so we'll see what happens. To my relief, the guide is able to steady himself and make it all the way across without another hitch. Now it's our turn. With only a single lantern shared between us, we have to be mindful of how to cross without leaving anyone in darkness. So this is going to play out exactly the same as last time. Ponder over what position to take. The person in front could potentially stall the others or bump into us. Yeah, so this is all playing out much the same. So I think we're still going to lose... I think we're still going to lose one of them. But hopefully then this time the other two will make it to the shore. I think the only way to get everyone across would be go back to the bridge and stop the guide from being injured at all. Bemele go without us. I know we're going to lose Bemele, but I'd rather lose Bemele than lose Lou. This whole playthrough is meant to be getting Lou across safely. Bemele listens to me intently, and a look comes over his face, and it's clear that he's not fond of the idea of leaving us behind. I shake my head and urge him to go.
Having one less person on this bridge will...
Lou keeps quiet, a silent agreement towards the plan, so we've seen this bit. Yeah. So, Bemele has drowned. A seed of worry sprouts inside me. Will we make it? The guide ahead seems to have no sign of concern on his face. So the sun's starting to rise and we see the island. It's still a way off because we would have lost time. I hold on to the hope that we'll be able to make it through. We near the very end of the bridges. I can smell the trees and the earth. And even through the fog, I can almost count the remaining bridges between us and land. Ah, crap. But between the end and us, a prowler appears. Hey, Lanky. Who doesn't seem surprised? As though he had expected not to make it without further issue or even at all. I eye the monster intently. It makes no move to leave us, so I turn to the guide instead.
Here, take my lantern. Once it's scared off, we'll make our way to the shore. It shouldn't be an issue with it so close by.
The guide says nothing, however he extends his hand to accept my offer. Alright, so this time we kept a clear enough mind that he didn't get lost and take us to a end bridge. 1 second, I got a quick... Whoop, I dropped my remote. 1 second, I'll be back in a second. Sorry about that. I just realized that my curtains were still wide open, so all of my neighbors can look in and watch me streaming. You don't get to watch the stream unless you subscribe. That's the rules. It's not really the rules. Subscribe if you want. You don't have to. I mean, I'd like you to, but you don't have to. The guide says nothing. However, he extends his hand to accept my offer. Nope, not returning to the main menu. So this is a branch point. No, we'll save over number 2. Just in case I have to go back to the island. I feel my body tense for a moment before relinquishing my light to the guide. It's not much further. I'm sure we can make it. The guide slowly steps ahead. He and the creature brace for confrontation. Lou and I stay close enough to the guide's back to keep from being left in the darkness.
Be ready to run. Don't get left behind.
He then darts forward and launches the light directly at the prowler. It makes a snarling hiss as it retreats, defeated, back into the black waters. None of us waste even a second looking back. We push forwards. I race across the bridge, desperately trying to keep the guide's light-edged figure in clear sight, as run as fast as I can possibly manage without slipping on the boards. We run across the entire way, spurred on by the shoreline rapidly approaching. Miraculously, I feel my feet plunge into the dirt. I stumble forwards, nearly collapsing onto the ground while trying to catch my breath. It feels as though I've come out of a long dream. We've made it. Lou stares hard at the dirt beneath him. I cannot place what it is that he might be feeling, though I barely know how I feel right now. I rest there quietly for a few moments, taking time to allow my breathing and emotions to settle down. Finally, I look up from my lap and see Lou standing away from me. His gaze is empty as he stares out into the thick fog veiling the lake. As though he realized I was staring, Lou suddenly twists his view back. We look at one another for a time. I can only guess what he may be thinking. No words need to be exchanged between us, and I'm glad for it because I'm not sure if I'd be able to speak even if I needed to. The sound of sloshing and wood lurching captures our attention as the bridges begin to sink. In only a few minutes, only the dock is left. With that, the guide walks towards me.
It is time to leave this place. There is nothing left for you here.
Upon being addressed by him, I rise to my feet. He has a calm look on his face, though there is a force behind his serenity. I open my mouth in an attempt to speak. However, I quickly realize that I have little idea of what to say. Do I thank him for this? Should I give him my trust? Was our survival because of him or despite of him? Even now, I cannot know for certain. And then the fog is removed from my thoughts. After everything that has happened, it becomes clear. I harden my face to match his serious disposition. There is something he is certainly right of. The lake is no place to linger. Going round and round in circles will never help. We cannot submit our lives or our minds to Sinlos. For better or for ill, there is only one person who can help those once they are within its grasp, and that's the guide. If he were removed, this place would be no safer. What I must do if I truly want to defend others is to keep them from coming here at all. When I return to my village, I intend to make that information acutely known to our elder. For that to happen, we must leave.
Goodbye.
His eyes narrow as he looks over me. I begin to feel uncomfortable under his scrutiny, but for a moment, I could swear I noticed him smiling slightly. However, it could easily be a trick of the morning sun. I look away to face Lou, not wanting to get caught up in this any longer. He catches my eye on him and looks back. Lou opens his mouth, however, no words come out, so he quickly closes it again. He slightly resembles a Magikarp. The two of us stare at each other. The two of us stare each other down awkwardly. After another brief moment, he gives me a shaky smile.
Goodbye. And, thank you.
He backs away from me slowly at first, studying my face deeply one last time before turning around completely and darting into the forest. I feel so caught off guard by the action that by the time I recover, he's already gone. I recognize that he probably needs some time alone to process what happened. He's safe. He's alive. That's all that matters. Despite the firmness I so intently tried to have, my heart starts to waver. Bemele, Margaret, they're both still here. I wish to give them a proper farewell. I want to do something. My eyes begin to water and I almost turn back around towards the lake. No, it's done. I need to remember that. They would never want me to ascribe their lives to Sinlos. Nothing would disgrace their memory more. I will keep them in my thoughts without allowing the lake to poison me. With my steadfastness truly regained, I march into the light with no hesitation. With a solemn heart, I at last arrive at Hema. They were so grateful to see me, for it was such a desperate situation indeed. The urgency meant that my mind was occupied with other matters. I worked tirelessly to aid Hema's own guards in forcing back the brigadiers. But during the moments of calm, and when the sun went down, I would remember the lake. The villagers were alarmed when I arrived on my own, but it did not take them long to guess what must have happened to Bemele. Having to recount the terrible story was almost more than I could endure. Yet, I know that it'll be even worse when I must tell my fellow guards back home. They deserve to feel, to hear, and to smell the truth from me, regardless of how it makes me feel. When receiving payments for his services, the guide must give a report of all those who both succeeded and failed to cross the lake. The name and fate of Margaret soon became known in Hemia. I added that she was an intelligent, thoughtful person and urged them to show respect for her passing. I hope that one day I will have the opportunity to go to her hometown and give my proper respects. Lou never reappeared after walking away that morning. I don't know where he's gone or but wherever he went, I pray that he will live a safe and wonderful life. Perhaps someday we will meet once more. I have not heard nor seen the guide since then. He will remain obscured in that realm of fog and fear, a mysterious light off in the distance that is ever out of reach of the real world. I worry about when I must return home to my usual life. It will be difficult to continue as things were before. One thing I know for certain is that my village elder must be told that no one is to cross Sinlos again. I've already told the Hemia leaders the same. Not a single more person should have to experience what we did. Its darkness will remain with me for the rest of my days. Though so much was lost, I try to believe that our lessons will keep others from suffering the same way, and in the end, something will be gained. Sweet. So that's another ending. We got across with Lou. So I'm going to jump back into that storyline. I'm going to go back to when we were all on the beach and see if we can stop the guide from getting injured. Because Cody said in the chat earlier when I put it to you guys that whether we should throw the lantern or let it play out, and we thought the guide knew what he was doing, so he let it play out, and that's how he got injured. So I might jump in and try and stop him getting injured and see if that keeps all of us alive, or whether only Bemele or Lou can get through. I won't go and try and get Margaret across this time, because Margaret died because of Lou, I think. Alright. So we'll jump in. Which one was it? Did I save before the choice? Yeah, that's the one where he's got his swords. That's the one we're fighting towards the bridge. That one's on the bridge. Might be this one. So his face was gracious enough to let it go. I turned towards Lou, a bit confused, and asked myself just let him space. Left by Lou ending up.
We could walk around the island together. I know there's
Okay,
not much
this is
point,
way too far back.
but
Give me
it
a
would
second,
be a
I'll
way
skip
to
up to
spend
where we're
time
meant to be.
and clear our minds.
Oh, I can agree to that.
Oh, this is way further back than what I meant to be. Right, this is when Bemele was still coming with me and Lou down to the beach. Only then do I realize that Bemele was doing nothing but wandering around aimlessly by himself all this time. I feel a touch of embarrassment enter my consciousness.
Then again, perhaps resting would be better.
Really? I'm of the mind that a relaxing walk would be good for a change.
He winks in my direction, likely having guessed the reason for my hesitation.
I still want to go.
Corners of my lips twitch up.
All right then. We can do that.
Bemele and Lou both smile back at me. We make our way to the edge of the forest where the trees are thinner. Lou strides with a light-hearted ease that is entirely new to me. Perhaps he is pleased to be out of the forest. I'm not the only one who notices the change. So this is a very different storyline to what we were on, guys. Sorry.
Listen, I need to apologize for what I said about you before, Lou. It seems you are quite the capable young man.
But if these guys are friends, maybe we can save everyone. That's a good idea. Lou laughs in a slow, drawn-out way. It almost ends as a sigh. He does not find the comment flattering.
Did you have to add young?
Well, how old are you?
7. Lou pauses momentarily, sizing Bemele up. If I did not know Lou, I would assume he wasn't intending on being entirely honest. I was instead planning on choosing a fictional age that he thinks he could get away with. Like me, I tell everyone I'm 27.
22.
I'd put you, maybe, early 20s.
I am 28. That makes you young to me.
Good point. Bemele seems self-satisfied with the findings, going out of his way to stand a bit taller in order to emphasize the difference between them. Lou does not seem particularly concerned with Bemele's light-hearted boasting. He turns towards me without speaking. Curiosity, 7 billion! Oh my god, he's reaching level 9,000! Curiosity is practically scrawled in thick black ink across his face. He's hoping that I'll share my own answer to the question at hand.
I have lived for 26 years.
And I've been dead for 7. Lou visibly perks up at the answer. Unusually for Lou, his delicate focus remains intact even after that. He watches me contemplatively, gauging if I might be open to satiating more of his curiosity. It does not take him long to come to a conclusion.
So you're some type of guard, right? What exactly do you do?
We guard the Holy Grail. Have you seen it?
It depends. Presently, I am being sent to assist a neighboring village. When I return home, I will have a completely different task. Oftentimes, I merely patrol the perimeter of the town. Fortunately, things have been quite peaceful recently, meaning most patrols are uneventful.
Lou listens attentively to my every word, evidently pleased that I did not brush off the question. I'm glad my answer was sufficient. I was not sure what sort of information he's looking for. Bemele chuckles, and I feel a bit self-conscious, knowing he derives so much entertainment from me talking about myself. Either Lou is unaware of the silent exchange between Bemele and I, or he's choosing to ignore it. He seems content enough either way, and I feel the same. I'm glad they both agreed to this. For a brief moment... Hey, another achievement. For a brief moment, all of the troublesome circumstances seem to float away from our minds, and we enjoy each other's company. I wish you could go on for so much longer, but it's only a while later that I have to speak up.
We really should rest before nightfall.
Both my companions nod in agreement. We return back to the place the guide asked us to wait for him, and get as comfortable as we can. Lou sits beside me, so close that his arm brushes mine. I feel comfort seep in via the cracks of my armor, both physical and mental, all from his subdued presence. I was about to go, the cracks in my armor, both emotional and physical, but the game made the joke for me. The three of us quietly wait for the guard's arrival, occasionally chatting with one another as we rest. The sky turns orange as sunset comes upon us. As the color seems to drain from the world, being consumed by the fog, the guide makes his appearance. Lou avoids eye contact with him.
It's almost time.
I nod and feel myself grow tense. We are about to return to those bridges. Right, so this is where the storyline comes back in. So we're going to skip, so it'll take us to any unseen text. Boom. All right, throw the lantern. This is back to that choice, Cody. I nod firmly to myself and set on the decision. I've seen the guide perform the move right in front of me. I know it isn't an impossible feat. Now something has to be done. I inch my way over to the most advanced group of Nixie. They drift slowly as they attempt to get behind the guide. I am of no concern to them, at least for the time being. The guide spots me and we make eye contact for a moment. He doesn't say anything and abruptly fixes his gaze elsewhere. It gives me the impression that he is aware of what I'm planning to do. He's ignoring me because he doesn't want the Nixie to recognize a coming threat. I steady my arms and assume a strong stance. I stop for a heartbeat and take a deep breath. Then I jump forward a small way. I toss my lantern towards the group of Nixie on the guide's right side. They're all caught completely off guard, practically wheezing as they scatter and dive back into the depths below. None even attempt to steal the lantern, which is a great relief. The guide seizes the moment to swing his staff at the group of Nixie on his left. The light edging close to them, combined with the general chaos, disturbs the creatures enough to frighten them. The left group joins the right in retreat. The guide observes the waterline, making certain that they've all crawled back into the water, and then releases a small sigh. He walks over to retrieve my lantern off the sand where it landed, keeping his eyes fixed steadily behind him. Attentively, I take a few steps towards him. He extends his arm forwards, offering my lantern back to me. I've never gotten so close to the guide before. He's never allowed it. Being in his presence this way feels unclear. I don't have the words to describe what it turns inside of me. Is this getting turned on by everyone? His eyes are expectant, impatient, and I waste no more time. I move to accept it, but I flinch before I can grasp it.
What's wrong?
His face hardens, scrutinizing the unexpected reaction. I banish whatever expression was on my face and take hold of what's mine.
It is nothing.
He lets it go, though does not make any attempt to leave. I don't believe it's because he's worried about leaving me in the darkness. I think he still suspects that something's wrong. The guide watches closely as I set the lantern aflame once more. Its light gently washes over me and I smile at the sight. This tool I hold is one of the exceedingly few comforts one can have on Sinlos. I do not wish to part with it again. He is still here and I begin to worry. The guide intends to admonish me for what I have done. I may have let emotion show on my face again because he starts to speak.
Keeping a hold of your light is crucial. However, if you took no risk, your only way across could have been lost. It wasn't an empty self-sacrifice.
There we go. So we were wrong, Cody. He did know what he was doing, but that doesn't mean it was the right thing.
In your position, neither option was correct. Neither was wrong.
See? Our enigmatic lead nods, and upon finishing this thought, he returns to his original place. I stare flabbergasted at the guide's back. By chance, I was put in a circumstance that allowed our values to align, but never would I have expected him to acknowledge that I had made an acceptable decision. I stopped myself from getting further distracted. Instead, I glance down at my light and realize the glow looks different. I wince as a large crack wickedly curving up the back. I'm thankful that it still works. Still, I fear that it will not hold out until the morning. I look forlornly at the fragile glass surrounding the simple flame. In a way, this event has forcibly reminded me of how fragile my own life is. One slip could mean the end of everything. Regardless, nothing can be done presently. We've got enough to worry about as it is. I cannot let this consume me. We will continue to resist against this lake. After an untold period of time, the water begins to stir. There's an unusual gurgling, a sound I never thought I'd be relieved to hear. Slowly, creakily, the bridges began their nightly appearance. Sinlos is an overwhelmingly cruel environment. This island had felt like a safe haven such a short time ago, but that has been twisted to the point where I'm grateful for a chance to return to the maze, and we may not even reach that. So we're back onto our storyline again, so we'll skip to unseen text. Let's
If
fight.
you're going to fight, then I am as well.
Yes, let's fight.
I
was
will
the correct
attach the
answer.
lantern to my belt for now.
Bole grins his sword firmly. Yep, so we're fighting again. There we go. So now we're up to unseen. I quickly straighten myself out and mull over our current situation. We start to consider how we are going to travel now that we only have 2 lanterns.
I can stay ahead in between the guide's light and yours. I will be fine there.
At that, I become fraught with worry. I look over at Bemele, concern rioting through my body, as I wonder how he'll fare, being so far away from a light source.
I think it would be fine if we all stayed together.
Nah, staying together is a bad idea, man. You look like a bunch of strawberries. Bemele and I confer with our eyes before slightly agreeing with one another. We nod.
Okay, we'll do that then. Thank you.
Other than having a bit of a crowd as opposed to an entirely straight line, our journey moves ahead as it did the night before. The silent night creeps along as we carefully move through the thick fog, making certain not to bump into one another. Then my lantern blinks. It fizzles out. The 3 of us gasp simultaneously, and I hold my breath like time will stop with my breathing. To my great relief, the light flutters back on. The air I'd been anxiously holding in releases as a sigh.
What's going on?
The guide has halted, but does not bother to turn around as he asks the question.
It was nothing.
I watch as he shifts his head back to look at us. The stare he gives is probing and deeply unnerving. He doesn't believe me. I return his gaze, my expression blank. We remain locked in this moment. I can feel his patience with me slipping away. He chooses not to spend any longer waiting for an answer that will not come. The guide faces his back to us once more and acts without a word. But I know he isn't satisfied. Our small group shares anxiety-ridden looks as the guide moves ahead. I look down at my lantern. The crack seems larger than ever. I feel as though I'm cracking with it. There is nothing I can do to fix it should it go out for good.
We need to keep going. We shouldn't speak of this.
I can feel that they're apprehensive over the situation and undoubtedly curious as to how it happened in the first place. However, this is not the time. I don't want to draw attention to this for fear of the guide catching on. The chattering of the Nixie bubbles up out of the darkness and I gulp harshly. The thought crosses my mind that they too have noticed what just transpired. We walk for a bit longer, the voices whispering amongst each other as they died down, but the squishing and clicking of prowlers has replaced them. It's difficult to trace the exact origin of the sound. All I know is that they're far too close for comfort. I turn to ask the prowler behind me his opinion. The guide stops abruptly, bringing us to an awkward halt. Luckily, there are no impacts between the 3 of us.
Stay where you are.
Nobody move. My eyes are drawn to the guide. He's making small movements, cautiously pressing his foot into the boards in front of him at different spots. Could something be wrong with the bridge itself? My theory is proven correct almost immediately.
The boards ahead are unstable. They may break when stepped on.
Is there another path?
This is our path. Move slowly and do not have 2 people on the same board at a time. I will cross first. When I find a stable section, I will inform you. Then you will follow my lead.
This is going to go badly. He doesn't allow us time to answer before darting forwards. His steps are light, but beneath him the wood creaks loudly.
Why are the bridges this way? They can be burned into ash and will still rise the next nightfall. And yet this spot is less stable than the rest. It is strange.
There likely isn't a reason for it. It's just another piece of madness.
It's a trap. Lou doesn't say anything on the topic, merely staring ahead. The guide breaks his cautious steps, testing the security of the bridge.
Where I am now is solid. You only need to reach this position.
We'll be right there.
I face the others.
To ensure that there is enough light for all of us, I will go second. We need to keep enough distance between each other to not break the boards.
Bemele elects to lead and starts going forward, inching gingerly across the trembling boards. So now we have Bemele ahead of us and Lou behind us and only one light again. It's the same thing that happened last time, we're just in a different place. What do you reckon? Halfway across, light fizzles out and dies, then someone dies. After some distance, I begin to follow, focusing on keeping my movements steady. Lou is the last to leave. The 3 of us carefully navigate the creaking soggy wood. We attempt to keep it to the guide's path in hopes that the boards will hold. I feel my foot lay heavily on a board. It bends hair-raisingly under me. I wince as I slowly step off of it. I wonder if we should be crawling on all fours to spread our weight over a wider space, but that would make us vulnerable to those creatures. My focus is broken when I hear a shout from ahead. Bemile's foot has snapped straight through the bridge. Pulling back, I instinctively rush forward, but the abrupt movement and added weight causes the board to splinter completely. I hit the cold water like a slap. Add sea monsters. We just did, buddy. There's now sea monsters. I hit the cold water like a slap, smacking my head on a falling chunk of wood. All I can do is try to swim back to the surface, despite the thick hold of water and growing fog in my mind. The guide even told us not to be two on the same board. Before I can reach it, I feel something latch onto my legs, with a grip like iron manacle. I struggle to kick the weight off, flailing my legs desperately as my air supply dwindles. It only tightens its grip so much I can't feel my ankle bones caving in. It drags me further away from the upper world of air, light, and life. I can feel more clawed hands grabbing me, and with an icy turning of my insides, I realize that it's already too late. Despite this, I struggle and thrash about as much as my burning lungs will let me, so that if he fell into the water too, at least I can keep the monsters busy with me. This last sense of purpose keeps me fixated, even as my senses get fuzzy. I'm dragged lower and lower with a vague smile on my face until the darkness completely overtakes me. Alright. He even told us, just don't. Everyone, this time we don't grab him back. We just let it play out. Bemile's a big boy, I'm sure he'll be fine. Because it does say that running out of time is not necessarily a bad thing. Despite every cell in me screaming to help, I force myself not to make any sudden movements. Bemile lifts his foot up from the cusp of the water and places it back on a board in front of him. Thank goodness. This entire section could have collapsed. Lou looks at us, clearly concerned.
A part of the board broke. Everyone is fine, however. You should avoid that section completely.
Okay.
Go, Lou! We're still in much danger as we stand here. I encourage him to begin moving once more. I make sure to skip over the broken board myself when I come to it. As I pass by the hole, I catch a bit of movement in the water. But when I look closer, there's nothing there. After a few more antagonizing minutes, everyone reaches the other side of the trap. Each of us three mutter various expressions of relief, but there isn't a word from our guide. We continue our journey across the bridges, sharing small, sporadic bits of conversation, until we're plunged into darkness. I immediately come to a screeching halt that almost makes the two near me lose their footing. I look down at... I don't know why I said down like that. I look down at my lantern. It's dark as the water. The three of us stare at it, silently pleading. A few moments pass, and yet the lantern remains cold and lifeless. Desperation, I jiggle the lantern, hoping that somehow it will click and the light will return. Nothing happens. I feel the others' nerves climbing with every second. They shift uncomfortably as they watch me pathetically attempt to relight it. We are quiet, still hoping that the guide won't notice. I cease shaking and tap the sides of the cracked glass. When that doesn't yield any results, I open the lantern itself and look over the internal workings. I cannot reach inside. Despite its appearance, the metal has retained heat from before, and I would be burned. As the darkness stretches on, I frantically try to figure out what the problem is from sight alone to no avail.
Your light is gone.
No shit, Sherlock. 10 points to Gryffindor. The indifferent tone of the speaker is unmistakable. No, not yet. I look up from my work to see the guide is approaching us. I'm at a loss for words. He comes near, and the edges of his light shelter us like a blanket.
Relight it.
My hands begin to tremble. I know that it won't do anything, but I do as demanded and hope for a miracle. I attempt to get the inner core to catch flame, but the lantern refuses to comply no matter what I do. The guy's eyes widen as the full scope of the situation dawns on him. My two companions start nervously fidgeting and whisper about the possible solutions, but I hear each one getting shot down. I look at the guide forlornly. We're completely at his mercy now, if he has any to spare at all. He coldly surveys the three of us. After silently deliberating, he narrows his eyes until they're nearly just slits in his face.
I will allow one of you to remain in my light.
One?
That's insanity! Your staff creates more than enough light for the four of us. We could easily follow at a distance you would feel comfortable with.
Someone who wants to live will share their light with no one. I will not share my light with 3.
He almost snarls at us.
After everything that's happened, all that we've done, you're going to abandon 2 of us this easily?
Oh, that's a bad idea.
You are a bastard.
So, I don't know who was in the stream at the very beginning. We found out that this guy was the illegitimate son of a king, and the king never claimed him as his own. And then the king died, so his whole life has been being called a bastard.
Stop. If you take so much as one wrong step towards him, all the guide will do is flee. There is no chance that fighting will end in more people surviving.
Bemele doesn't say any more, but grits his teeth.
Then, what about 2? Could you please keep 2 of us safe?
The guide sharply shakes his head.
I will allow 1 and no more. 2 will be left behind.
Finality rings out from his words.
Lingering at a distance far behind my light will leave you vulnerable. The wisest option is to continuously move, even if it means going another way.
Bemele glowers at the guide hatefully. Sorry, text message. Lou's eyes narrow as he observes the situation. A torrent of thoughts rip through my mind as I try to find some other way. My body stiffens. The guide has never referred to me by name this way. It is jarring enough to gain my attention, even amidst the panic rising.
You are the most likely to survive. The offer is for you.
My eyes widen even further. No, I don't want that. I can't be the only who... I can't be the only who... No. I turn my eyes to my 2 companions. The both of them gaze back at me, dejected. There is horrifying resignation in their eyes. This cannot be happening. They should be going, not me. They should be the ones who remain safe.
I'm nowhere near as sharp as you are. We both always knew that.
I want everyone to survive. There's a fragile, self-depreciating smile on his face, and it makes my heart ache. Lou continues to only passively watch with an unexplained expression. I shake my head, refusing to watch them give up so easily. I turn to the guide's face one last time, begging him mentally. He is empty, unflinching.
It needs to be done. This is what it means to cross Sinlos.
The heavy words sink into me as I stare towards the void that eagerly awaits the 2 of us. Right, do we give the light to someone else? Or do we go with him and leave the others alone? I feel if we give the light to someone else, we continue playing on. Whoever goes with him has a high chance of surviving. And if we follow, or if we go a different way, it's possible that we could survive. So I'm going to save, but I'm tempted to not... So number 5. Tempted to not follow him. Any thoughts in chat? Or are you guys just enjoying the storyline at this point? That is hardly helpful. Kill them and take their souls is not an option. Yeah, I survive. Alright, so you want me to go with him. Alright, sweet. We'll do that. I'll go with him. So we'll just let it time out. I swallow my objections. No matter how painful it is to come to terms with, we have to be pragmatic. I would have encouraged the decision if another was being spared. How can I say that it's wrong now? The guide waits for a breath. When I say nothing, he takes that as compliance and nods. He then simply walks off without even a goodbye to the others.
I'm sorry. I couldn't do anything for you.
Bemele gives me a courageous half smile.
We'll find our own way across. The shore can't be far off after all the walking we've done.
Lou gives me a quiet, calm smile and speaks softly.
I'll be all right. I'm glad you're going.
I wipe my face on my sleeve and compose myself.
I will wait for you on the shore.
This goodbye can't go on for much longer. With all of us standing still without any light, I burn both their faces into my memory for reasons I don't dare think about. Then I force my shaky legs to follow after the guide. I follow behind the guide at the edges of his light. I walk listlessly, each step feeling heavier than the last. A complete sense of emptiness overwhelms me. I move along almost like a puppet on strings, trudging on hollowly as I attempt to understand what I'm even doing with myself, with my life. I harden my face and attempt to purge every thought from my mind except for ones pertaining to the bridges and how to successfully cross them. I have to survive. I must. What they've all sacrificed cannot be for nothing. I am still needed. And I'm still needed. After hours of navigating the complex maze of bridges, the faint light of day creeps into view. The guide increases his pace, and I cautiously follow suit. The sun continues to rise, as does our speed along with it. The odds decrease with every step we have to take. Our persistence pays off when the silhouette of land appears on the horizon. My heart pounds at the sight. It feels unbelievable. I race across the bridges, desperately trying to keep the guide's light-edged figure in clear sight. I run as fast as I possibly manage without slipping on the boards. We run across the entire way, spurred on by the shoreline rapidly approaching. Miraculously, I feel my feet plunged into dirt. Alright, do we reckon the others are going to survive? Are they going to rock up miraculously, or are they just dead? What do you reckon? I stumble forwards, nearly collapsing into the ground while trying to catch my breath. It feels as though I've just come out of a long dream. We made it. Well, most of us. After a moment of processing everything that just happened and pulling myself together, I rise fully to my feet and stand tall. I turn back towards the lake. Fog drifts across the empty, stagnant waters. As menacing as when I first... 40-50? Yeah, there's not a great chance, is there? As menacing as when I first laid eyes on it. I can't bear to tear my eyes from the sight. It is as though reality halts as I stare deeply at the surface. I shake away the sensation. I'm alive. I've made it across. I now will be able to unite the villagers and remove the brigadiers. But at what cost? My mind turns itself over. I can still faintly feel wet, rigid hands on my ankle, a ghost reminder of the Nixie. I know the hands are not real, but that doesn't exactly loosen their grip. I wait at the edge of the shore, looking out to the vast expanse of the lake. I stand steadfast, unable to be swayed. I refuse to move on until the light of the sun fully covers the land and the bridges disappear under the water. I will be here for them until the final moment. I feel that the guide is rather displeased at my continued presence. Despite getting such an impression, however, he still remains close enough for me to reside in his light. The moments tick on and on. The night continues to shrink with each passing minute. I perk up when I hear something. It isn't a whisper under the surface of the rush of wind through the trees. It's the sound of footsteps, I'm sure of it. And they're coming from the lake. My heart begins to pound.
We're over here!
I shout out down the bridge and wave my hands in an attempt to garner attention of anyone who's out there, regardless of the dense fog making it impossible to see. It hardly matters, as I hope desperately that whoever is on the bridge finds their way before it's too late. The echoes of footsteps grow louder, and I can't resist the temptation to head out into the unknown to meet them moments sooner. I step out onto the boards once more. My breath remains... Don't go back onto the damn bridge. My breath remains locked inside as the footsteps grow nearer still. And then, out of the mist, emerges Lou. Where's Bemele? The air releases, and my eyes start to brim with tears. Lou is alive. He made it. He stops in front of me and needs to catch his breath for a moment. I wipe my wet tears and smile with relief.
I'm so glad to see you.
We rush off the bridges with haste, eager to put this night behind us. With that, we truly arrive on the shore. As the thrill of the moment dissipates, I have to acknowledge that he's alone. I turn my eyes back towards Sinlo, scanning as much of the area as I can see silently, pleading for any glimpse of a sign. Lou notices. He stares down at the ground sorrowfully, confirming what I already feared.
I'm sorry.
The tears from earlier make their return. They spill over and stream down my face. Bemele is gone. He died out in the darkness. I slowly slink backwards, away from the lake. I don't want to be anywhere near those bridges anymore. I clench my fists together tightly. I look towards Lou again, and we lock eyes for a moment. He gives me a rather sorrowful gaze as he speaks.
I have to go. It's time for me to return home.
He brightens his face and smiles widely.
Thank you for saving me. It makes me happy you survived too.
His words ring with sincerity. I stand in the stillness of the moment and can't find the strength to stop him as he walks away, disappearing into the fog. With that, I fall down to my knees and sob loudly into my hands. How am I meant to feel? I'm so glad Lou was able to make it here, and yet it completely tears me apart knowing that the other two did not. I'm left on the ground, feeling completely and utterly heartbroken. My turmoil abruptly ends at the sound of the guide's voice. You can't stay. There's nothing left for you here. You must return to the world and leave this place behind. All of my words stuck sorely in my throat. I'm completely parched and my mouth is threatening to close in on itself. He feels the silence once more.
I expect to never see you again.
The guide looks at me harshly, almost pleadingly, as he gazes into my eyes. All I can offer is a slow, weak nod. I don't want this to be the way things are. I can't accept it. I'm consumed by a whirlpool of thoughts. I wasn't able to help anyone. As I continue to stare at the guide, tears well up in my eyes and threaten to spill over. He gives me no acknowledgement at all. I wipe the feeling from my face completely. I must continue on. I have no other choice left before me. On quaking legs, I march forward solemnly into the forest. Without stopping or turning around, I close my eyes and murmur to myself, it's a sorrowful goodbye to all those lost to the lake, who couldn't even say the word themselves.
Farewell.
With a solemn heart, I at last arrived in Hammer. Yep, so that one hasn't changed. Anything new? No. Nothing new. Sweet. Back into load. Which one was it? This one? Alright, this time someone else is going and we're taking the light. We're going without the light. We're sending someone else. The guide sucks in a breath, clearly disappointed.
Being without light is dangerous, even if you are close to another. The one who goes with me has no guarantee of making it across. You risk this entire journey being for naught. The correct decisions need to be made. Everyone should be aware of that.
His words cut deep. I have no logical reason to object to going if my only solution is choosing another for the same position. I bite my lip, my mind madly whirring on the matter for a moment, then I bow my head. I swallow my Oh. Alright, so now it's going to play out much the same. Yeah, skip through. Oh, there we go. That is the getting Lou across the story. We played out, we ran into pretty much every ending I think we could. There was a few options on the island, and before we got to the island, to hang out with certain people over others. But I don't think that really would have changed. I mean, we'd have got a few more achievements, but that wouldn't really have changed the ending too much. We also still need to go through and play Margaret's story. So try and get Margaret across, which probably means not taking Lou. Because I know you can't have all the characters in the second part. But we might come and do Margaret's. Because this is, the stream's been going for nearly 4 hours now. We've just finished Lou. If there's as many branching options in Margaret's, I don't have time to do the whole thing tonight, and I don't want to start another run through and only get halfway or only do a few of the paths. I like doing it as a completion thing. So I'm going to leave this stream here. Thank you so much to everyone who came and hung out. If you haven't given the stream a like or subscribe to the channel, If you enjoyed the stream, give it a like, subscribe. That way you'll know when I come back to do the Margaret portion. I'm not sure when that will be yet, so keep an eye. If you keep an eye on Twitter or Instagram, I will always post when I'm about to do stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and hanging out, guys. It has been a lovely stream. Because I travel as a professional street performer and as a professional entertainer, I do travel a lot, so I don't get to stream much. So when I do, it's always nice to have people to muck around with, people to chat with. It turns more into like playing a game with friends than recording pre-recorded stuff. But as I said, thank you so much for coming and hanging out, guys. I'm going to leave this stream here. As always, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to chuck them down in the chat. I'll leave the chat open for a little while after the stream. Or find me on Twitter if you have any suggestions for games or questions. But for right now, have a good day, have a good life, and I'll catch you all down the road.